Yeah, I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat. Yo, grew my hair and took the grill out. Think it's time to put it back in. Trying to get into that big house, turn the crib into the mansion. Needed something with that big bounce. You know I had to hit Jackson. Aaron Rodgers with the quick routes. I'm with the gang, we packing. We on the field at Lambo. Might peel in a Lambo. Running drills in my camo. They know what the M stand for. Still got fam in Hawaii, yeah. Couple fans in the lobby, yeah. Couple grand in my pocket, yeah. Couple grams of wasabi, yeah. Eye it up, no glasses. Light it up, no matches. Wife it up, no ratchets. Might turn my wife to an actress. And we gon' make a movie, no Kim K. Give a fuck about what your friends say. I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
I'm just sticking to the code, I keep it so G. She asked me what I smoke, I'm smoking OG. I don't fuck with too many, only catch me 4 deep. Gotta stay away from snakes, swear these people so creep. I've been grinding for a minute, many labels so sleep. These rappers drop a song, script be hot for about a week. I put Gucci on my toes, I keep some cold feet. I ain't paying for no home, you niggas know me. I'm about to body the beat. I keep me a hottie with me. She wanna for a fee. Give me that for free. Keep me some money on me. Smoking the gas, keep. You with me, sheesh. But need OG keep.
I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
Yeah, head up in the clouds, though they saying I look stressed. I've been feeling down, pray to God that I'm up next. Remember when she blew me off, that's why I can't text. Now she call me petty, but I swear I can't forget. This ain't a test, now they saying that I ball like Jerry West. Coming back for what is mine, I can't take no less. I said go and take a shot, so I need your best. And stop the threats, so nobody's into me. I don't got time, I'm not giving the energy. Too many people around me, I'm finicky. I do not mess with you, dog, you're not kidding me. You don't got way too close. I've been up at the top now, so they all wait for the landslide. I seen too many people that switched up, whose man's high. Through it all, I stay the same, I swear to God, I can't lie. Been down so damn low that I came up for my life. They talk way too much on the internet, it's not real life. I swear my fam waiting, I can't lose and I'm still right. Still right, I swear that I'm working them up till like midnight. It's real life, I got a time and I'm coming to get mine. In time, I cannot lose and I'm coming right inside. I'm in my, yeah.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream every single weekday right here at 4:15 p.m. Bitcoin is absolutely ripping, guys, so I had to go live early for the Mafia. I think what I'm going to do here is I think I might just run into the typical live time. We'll run until about 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we'll see. If we get more price action, maybe we'll go a little bit later. But I had to hop up here early, guys, as Bitcoin is pumping. And, guys, I think the crypto gods heard our prayers yesterday. If you guys know, we tried some reverse psychology on the crypto gods yesterday, praying for altcoins to go to zero, praying for the top to be in. And we thought maybe it would start a pump. And Mrs. Candles also said we were going to pump, so maybe she helped out as well. Sniffing, I did sniff that hand quite a bit last night. So here we are, guys, approaching, or not approaching, but tapping our last key level of resistance. Are we going to get the big nuke to the floor, or are we going into all-time highs, guys? We got Bitcoin dominance dropping. We got ETH starting to take off. ETH hitting its target that we were looking at yesterday. XRP hitting the target that we looked at yesterday. And we even looked at Aerodrome, looking for a potential pullback into a golden pocket before a bounce. And, well, we'll just take a look at that chart and see how that played out. But shout out to the CandleMafia. Thank you guys for tuning in. And welcome anybody who does not watch the normal stream. Here we are nice and early. Maybe we'll get some new people in here. But shout out to the CandleMafia. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got Johnny December in the chat dropping those palm trees as usual. Welcome in, bro. We got Darren Does Things said he shorted the top. I didn't short the top. I swear. I don't know. Maybe we'll take a look at that. But shout out to Darren Does Things. Welcome in, bro. Is that why we dumped? Is it because you shorted, bro? Unbelievable. Shout out to Darren Does Things. We got K Diggity in the chat. Phoebe says hi, bro. I heard you guys talking on the phone pretty late last night. I was sniffing Mrs. Candle's hand, though, so I was distracted. But, hey, it ended up in a Bitcoin pump. So, shout out to UK Diggity. We got Giga Longbottom in the chat. Tony Roaz, what is going on, man? Welcome in. We got Curtis Neal. We got Crypto Columbus in the chat, just exploring those new targets for Bitcoin. Shout out to you, man. We got Wayne Mack in the chat. Welcome in. We got Lou in the chat, said huge pullback coming. Well, we got a lot to look at here on the charts, guys, as Bitcoin, obviously, I am still holding my long position, so we'll talk about that. And then maybe the possibility of trying to catch that reverse knife. I swear I didn't do it, guys. I swear. But anyway, let's go ahead and without further ado, don't forget to smash that like button if you want Bitcoin to continue pumping or dumping, whether you're in a long or short. Go ahead and smash that like button. It is proven to help your profitability. Let's jump into it. So here we are, guys, with Bitcoin and this mega rip to the upside here. What the heck is going on? Well, if you guys tuned into last night's live stream, you will know that we were looking at some very key levels. I'll just pull up the levels we were looking at yesterday. Obviously, keeping an eye on this 109.9 to 110K zone, which was that next target to the upside for that long position. And we had a very key level of resistance that we were looking at, which obviously was that 786 Fibonacci retracement, saying, you know, if we are going to get the pullback here from that fib zone, it was very likely to happen inside this golden pocket or 786. And you can see we tried to break out earlier. We kind of played around with it. We got a little pullback down below it, but eventually we did break above it, which did make us look up towards that $110,000 target, which was sitting here at the value area high. We pulled into that. I mean, I'd have to pull up like a 1 minute candle here just to kind of show you guys. We hopped on top of that value area high, flipped it to support, and at that point, guys, the next big level of resistance that we had was going to be the daily MPOCs we had sitting above. We had one, so it's kind of like a pocket, obviously. We did have the one sitting up here at about 110.9 all the way up to about 111.878. I'll go ahead and mark this out right here. So that was and is the last big level of resistance here, guys, because and we actually looked at the liquidation heat map yesterday as well. I'll go ahead and see if I can pull that up, or I guess I'll pull the trade up first here. Bada boom. Over here, long on Blowfin, up about 2K from that key zone of support that we were looking at a few days ago. We had a long setup in the premium Discord for a potential bounce from that position or that level. The level was actually sitting right down here. I did take the long position. Obviously, I did wind up getting out of that position in full by accident. I explained how that happened yesterday, but I did re-enter on a little bit of a pullback, or I guess you can call it a retracement. So I did re-expose myself to that long position, obviously, and we have shot up to those next key levels almost perfectly. I mean, I don't even want to say almost perfectly, but pretty much perfectly getting a tap into that key zone of resistance. But now the real question comes in here, guys. Are we finally ready to break out here? We have a ton of exciting things to talk about today. Obviously, we do have Bitcoin dominance getting a nice drop to the downside. Could this be? Could this be? And I'm not just going to be I'm not just going to sit up here and say, alt season starts now, right? Obviously, it could be the case, but I'm just going to bring you guys the raw information. We have come up to our key level here on Bitcoin dominance. Obviously, we have Ethereum getting that push to the upside, hitting our next local target. I'm going to turn off the larger range, and I will pull up the local volume profile. Obviously, we were looking at this local volume profile, looking for a push into the... Do I still have this on the chart? Let me see. I did just clean up this chart to share it with the premium Discord so they can import it to their own trading view and get these levels. Where is... Maybe I did delete... Did I delete it? Yeah, I think I might have deleted that actual level. Maybe, yeah. I guess I did delete it. But as you guys know, we had this local volume profile that we were looking at, looking for a potential rip up into our golden pocket 786. Let me go ahead and pull that up because this value area high might be in a slightly different area. But we do have the 786, and this was that key target on the chart, guys, that we were, as we were bing-bonging around here, looking to break above that golden pocket. Once you break above the golden pocket, maybe it's pulled a little bit back. I wish I didn't delete that, to be quite honest with you, because it was a very, very... Actually, you know what I can do? I can actually come on... I can't. I reshared it. Hang on. Maybe I can pull this up. Where's it at? Where's it at? Because I want you guys to recognize the levels that we were looking at. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to pull it up. But as you guys know, we were looking at that volume profile, looking to break above that golden pocket, with our 786 being that last level of resistance. Once you break above that golden pocket, which I believe was also the POC of the range that we were watching, once you get above that POC, you do expect the value area high. Once you get above the golden pocket, you're looking to push up into that 786 Fibonacci retracement, which obviously is going to be the line in the sand here, guys. Can we get a rejection here? Yes. However, if we're able to stay on top of this 786, it could lead to a much bigger breakout. I have some new levels that I want to show you guys on Ethereum as well, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's cover Bitcoin, but I just wanted to bring that up, right? We have dominance starting to drop from our key level of resistance. I'll pull that up real quick. Okay, everybody calm down. I don't know what just happened. If we take a look here, right, obviously we did approach that 786. We did not physically tap it, but as you guys know, could we still come up and tap that? Yes. But, there's not a necessity to actually physically tap the level. So is it possible that this could be the breakdown on dominance? I would say the possibility is there, as long as you understand that, if we do wind up getting a move back up, this is still a big key level of resistance. The fact that we have not broken above that is somewhat good for altcoins, right? Are we going to see that bigger drop down? Once we get that bigger drop down, we can finally see the altcoins start to actually shine. I'm not talking about little pumps, guys. I'm talking about actual alt season potentially coming in, but we still have some more development that we have to look for here. We do have key support down at 64.24%. So, we could just wiggle around on that POC. It's really not until we decisively lose this point of control where I would feel more confident in a bigger drop. But so far, so good, getting that nice little drop on dominance, and obviously ETH getting a reaction there, getting that push to the upside. So I'll bring up ETH in just a minute, but first let's cover Bitcoin, obviously. So I am holding that long position. And guys, yes, I did. I did it. I'm sorry. I did it. Let me pull up the actual liquidation heat map really quickly, because yesterday we looked at this on the live stream, understanding that we did have that liquidity sitting up here between about 110.4 all the way up to about $112,000. You have that hot spot of liquidity, and what happens? Bitcoin decides to come up and sweep into that liquidity where we had two options, right? Either we are going to come up, sweep that high for a potential liquidity sweep for a big rejection, or at least some kind of a push to the downside. I do like that we're breaking out of this volume profile, guys. And overall, right, my long-term sentiment here for Bitcoin is generally going to be the same, right? Let me actually just move something over here. My general thesis still remains the same. I do think we will see new all-time high soon, even though we just barely saw. We just tapped that previous all-time high. But I do still feel pretty good here, right? As you guys know, until we lost this value area low at about $104,000, where we have that monthly MPOC, that is kind of the local line in the sand. Once we start breaking down below this, we can start to look back down towards that $97,000 macro POC. But until then, we are going to be looking for higher lows and higher highs to come. And that is part of the reason why I was looking for a long position down here in the premium Discord from this confluent level of support. Obviously, accidentally got a full take profit here, re-entered on the retracement, and then we wound up getting that bigger move to the upside. So very nice. But as we see this liquidity, we know the liquidity acts as a magnet, giving us the opportunity to get a push up into the zone, but this can end up in two different ways, right? Right now, it is starting to look like we might get an SFP, and I'll talk about what I really don't want to see here for a continued push up. But at the end of the day, right, you could go for that liquidity sweep for a correction back down, or we could have just gotten a squeeze to the upside, the FOMO starts, and we just get that big breakout. Right now, right, we're getting a pretty harsh rejection here, and I will say, I'm sorry, guys. I did try to catch the knife here. I did try to catch the knife here on the all-time high over on Phoenix. So I did short almost the tippy top here. Got in at about 111,623. Now, I did not just short this as a gamble, guys. I did not just short this for no reason. It's only up about $500 right now. But we actually did have some confirmation up here, right? So we did just get this trade was based off actual technical factors. We did get that 15-minute swing failure pattern, the wick above, closure down below, that next candle prints. There's your confirmation of the SFP, and you get that drop to the downside. We also, on exo charts, did have some single prints down below. You can see some more single prints sitting down here. So these will come into play in just a minute. But we did have a big block of single prints down here, which I knew were going to be very likely filled if we pushed into that zone. Typically, when you look at single prints like this, I'm not going to get too deep into it. You might be looking at this chart like, what the heck is he looking at? But, these are pretty much just like low volume gaps, but they are not low volume gaps. They are low time gaps. I'm not going to explain it right now, but it was just another reason why I would expect a fast drop to the downside, especially with that SFP, just to kind of let everyone know, right? I'm not just like gambling at the top, shorting because we were on the move to the upside, right? We had actual technical factors. I will never just, short because I feel like price will go down, right? So we did have some, we also had some like very, very low time frame bearish divergences, money flow starting to come out. So there were some factors to look for that. And there you go. In just a few minutes, there's a quick little $500, right? I mean, this could rip up and stop me out, but at this point, because I have not taken profit, but just to give you guys a thought process of like, we've been looking for this, right? Will I be interested in shorts up here? Yes. Am I going to be very careful with it? Yes. If I get stopped out here, it is a very, very small loss for me. And again, the SFP is giving a beautiful, beautiful invalidation for that trade, guys. The SFPs are some of the highest probability and best risk to reward trades you could take, right? So you're going to be entering in on the confirmation of that candle. Your stop loss goes right above the wick. And like, even if you make it down here, right? If you were looking at that as a trade, nice little scalp, right? I will be holding this for a little bit longer, potentially looking to come back down to the value area high. And I want to talk about the key levels of support if this drop does continue. But just to break down kind of what we saw happen there, we had the magnetic liquidity sitting above. I was aware of that, looking for a potential SFP. I did take it. Very risky position. I was even telling the Discord, like, hey guys, just letting you know what I'm doing. Please do not, not financial advice. Pray for your boys. This is a very risky short. But definitely valid reasons behind that position. But I will just say this, guys. Overall, the question is, are we finally going to see the big breakout? And I hate to say it. Excuse me. I really hate to say it. It's very hard to call, right? I am now short and I am long, so I am hedged very nicely here. But if we do get the bigger correction to the downside, some of the key levels of support that I will be looking at are very simply going to be I'm going to get that daily MPOC off the chart because it's already tapped. So get rid of that Fibonacci retracement. Now, if we do wind up breaking back down below this MPOC, guys, this is obviously, 4-hour SFP is well confirmed here. So if we do break down below this daily MPOC, sitting at about 110,850, obviously we could look for a potential continuation down towards that value area high, which does sit at about $109,918. Now, There is a possibility here, guys. My sentiment overall remains the same. Could that short wind up turning into a bigger swing? Yes. But I am going to be treating that with care, right? Because overall, right, the real line in the sand for me is this monthly MPOC / value area low. At the end of the day, this is also a deviation above the high. So is there a possibility that if you do not hold this value area high, again, 109, 918, if you're unable to hold that level, guys, it is going to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say like super bearish or anything like that, but once you get stuck underneath that value area high, we have to understand that the doorway is technically open back to the POC, lose the POC, back down to the value area low. So for this short position, I will be looking at this as, short entry pretty much at the top. Looking, if we break this daily MPOC, I'll be looking to come down to the value area high. At that point, my stop loss will be very likely be in, at break even, right, with profits locked in. If we get accepted back into that range, I will target the POC. And then if we do not get any kind of bullish confirmations down there, I will simply be targeting that value area low. This is still a very, very, very key level of support, guys. So I will be looking for bounces down here as well. But let's take a look at some of these higher time frames, guys, because as you know, longer term, I have been bullish for a potential breakout into new all-time highs, and this has been based off of the 2-day money flow crossover into the green. As you can see, we had that 2-day money flow in the green with our Heikinashi monthly green dot printing. This is what I talked about yesterday, and pretty much every stream for the past few weeks, every time we get one of these monthly green dots, guys, and it's just crazy that this just happens right on time. It's absolutely insane, but you have the monthly green dot, right? Your 2-day money flow crosses over into the green. That's your next big leg up. Monthly green dot. 2-day money flow crosses into the green, next leg up, and now we have another monthly green dot with another 2-day money flow crossover. Is this going to be a much bigger move to the upside? And again, I am short from the high here, but, for what it's worth here, we do have the, VWAP on the regular candles is coming back to the upside. 2-day money flow looks really, really, really good. But, if this 2-day red dot prints, maybe the correction continues, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But overall, even if we still get bigger corrections to the downside, guys, I am still going to be open to higher lows and higher highs incoming until proven otherwise. So, and then if that is not going to be the case, then we will have that short playing out from the top. But what if it's the bear market? Well, we literally shorted the top of the bull market there. But that's not the camp that I fall into, guys. Rate cuts. We have all this stuff coming down the line that could potentially lead to bigger moves to the upside. And again, we have Bitcoin dominance dropping. We have ETH starting to get moves to the upside. We also have some other altcoins starting to move. So I'm going to cover some of the altcoins as well today, but I really wanted to cover this with you guys. We had that magnetic target up here. Here we are, making money on the long, and also taking those, I don't want to say risky, but low probability, aggressive, I guess somewhat, daredevil shorts from the top. But let's see. Let me jump back into chat here real quick. Market close was perfect short time. Shout out to Mike Bennett. I tried to prepare everybody for months. Asked a lot of people in here. I did it. Shout out to Jesse. Let's go. Saying beer is tax free. Very interesting. We aren't going to $1 million. Shout out to Base Bailey. I forgot who was saying it in the Discord, in the chat. Someone was saying they're looking for $1 billion. I said I'm looking between $2 and $3 billion for Bitcoin, guys, in the next day or so. Obviously, I'm kidding, but I do want to talk about some bigger targets to the upside in case we do see this bigger breakout. What is going to be the next target? Because, like I said, this was literally the last line of defense that we had, where I would be interested in short positions. I did take the short position, although I would be treating this again with a lot of care, right? And higher lows and higher highs are definitely in the cards here until proven otherwise. Once we break down below this value area high, that is going to make me anticipate a potential bigger drop down, which again wouldn't make me super bearish or anything. Still looking for higher highs and higher lows and higher highs, but yeah, I mean, very, 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 very nice here. And wait until we start looking at the altcoins, guys. Shout out to anybody that was in the live stream last night when we were looking at Aerodrome. Low key, called the penny bottom of that. Not that it had to bounce there, but short from 111,847. Let's see. Shout out to Ligma Wick. Let's go. Shout out to Cruz. I don't know how to say that first. Two's Cruz. Shout out to you, man. He says you tell everybody not to short the top, yet you always short the top. Pro moves right there. Yeah. Shout out to Two's. So the reason why I always say, right, and that's it. That's all we got. Trading view is just broken here. But yeah, definitely reason to take the short up there. I just don't want anybody just trying to like catch knives for no reason. Like when I catch a knife, right, or the Mafia tries to catch a knife in the Discord, usually it is based off of some specific reasons, right? We have to come into a key level. We have to see confirmation. But yeah, it's, I never want anybody just trying to catch knives gambling like that. Let's see. What should be the stop loss? Shout out to Abazi. There we go. Okay, I just had to hit the stream deck. That's all I needed. I just needed to on the SFP. So my stop loss is just right above this wick, right? Because if we do break up, stop losses, personally, I set them right above that wick high, right? The highest price went before getting that SFP candlestick confirmation. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you out. Love the Mafia, Frankie. I'm just jealous that I'm not as good at catching knives. Shout out to Twos. Hey, bro, you stick around long enough. I'm here dishing this free value every single day, so stick around, and you will be just as good as we are, probably in no time. But yeah, this is like one of the most simple candlestick confirmations you can get. And again, right, let's assume, right, okay, I don't know, guys, you can't make this up. I don't know why that's the problem. I don't know why I have to keep hitting the camera to make trading view work again. But let's just assume, right, you did get another bounce to the upside and it takes off into new all-time highs. Well, you have to look at this as like, well, hey, it's already played out as a pretty nice trade, right? You get a nice little, almost 1% move, which is, totally fine for me to get into some profit. But yeah, even if it does come back up, right, like those SFPs are very high probability to give you some kind of a pullback, right? It doesn't have to be a giga short to zero. So shout out to Twos, bro. You just stick around, bro. Stick around. I think you'll be able to do it. Let's see. Hey, shout out to Joker. Thank you for the super chat, bro. I appreciate you so much. He says, so upset at myself. Had my order at 111,860 triggered, but had my short from 109, no stop. So now I'm averaged at 110,900. Set your stop loss. Shout out to Joker. If I could pin that super chat, I would. Please always have a stop loss, guys. Again, like, see if I can pull that trade back up. You can see here, my stop loss is set, right? I don't just say this stuff. I actually do protect myself. So just keep that in mind. Set your stop loss. If this thing risks back to the upside, and let's say I don't take any profit, right? I'm going to take a very, very small loss. And again, I am also in much more profit here on the long anyway, right? So the short stops out for a small loss. Long continues to pay us out. So yeah, biggest key levels down below, guys. Definitely going to be about 109, the value area high at 109,918. And then, once we break down below that, we can start entertaining these lower levels down in the volume profile. But the question is, what if we get the bigger break to the upside? Let me go ahead and clean up the chart for you guys really quickly, and I will bring up some of those upper targets. I'll get rid of this purple box, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull some local Fibonacci extension levels here, pulled from the all-time high all the way to the low here at about 98,182. We're going to pull up those extension levels. We do have a possible, right? I was even telling the Discord, right? Anybody who was long, funny enough, anybody in the Discord that took the original long position has a better entry than me because I accidentally, I keep saying stop myself out. I accidentally had a full take profit set there. Be careful, guys. Be careful. If you actually want to know how that happened, guys, just to kind of show this, see this little stop loss button? I think I did it on the live stream. I was on the original long position that we showed on the live stream, which was from a little bit lower where I'm long from now. I think I was dragging the chart, and I think I just moved a little too far, hit the take profit, and had my level set there. I looked at the chart and I was like, where'd my long go? And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened. So be careful if your exchange gives you like those automatic TPs that you could just click and quick set them, because it could stop you out. Hopefully it's the case that I'm in where it just TPs you in profit. But anyway, let's continue on here. Next target to the upside, guys. Letting the Discord know, from the long position, right? Potential possibility of having that, if we do go into all-time highs, right, we could see that eventually run us up into about 115,329. This is the next Fibonacci extension I will be looking at locally. And, sure, could you pull like a hyper-local extension, right, from this high to this low, right? And, we're hitting a little resistance right here. But I would say, if we go into real new all-time highs, the big level to look at is about $115,329, right? 115K even. Definitely a level you want to keep an eye on. And then as we cruise up, right, if we can push up into these higher levels, 120,000 at the upper end of that target. And that doesn't mean that I think the top is coming in at 20K, 120K, but this is definitely going to be the next big zone to look at, right? It's the only thing we can really look at because you can't look left for price action because you have no candles, right? So you're just going to be looking. Typically, I will separate this into like the first zone between 115,329 and 117,798. And then if we crack above that, I'll be looking at about 120K. I would say this is probably a pretty big level, just because it's a nice psychological level. It's, I am not the only person looking at these extension levels. There's a lot of traders that look at these levels. So, we might get a little bit of turbulence up in that zone. So just be aware of that. If we are not going to get the big rejection here from the MPOCs, and we get or even if we do get a little correction and a continuation up, right? Maybe we do something like that. This is going to be the next big level to look at. So there you go. I'm going to jump back into chat real quick. And then we'll move on to some altcoins, some Bitcoin dominance, and then we'll see how this price action develops. Let's see. Shout out to Kenny. He says, I'm stuck with Render. I can't find a place to move it, and Coinbase stopped trading it. Shout out to Kenny. Because Coinbase stopped supporting Render? That's interesting. But yeah, you could probably just send it to another exchange, send it to a wallet. But shout out to Kenny. You should be able to figure that out. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. You should be good. Let us know, Kenny. Let us know if you figure it out. But let's see. I'm so jaded at this point. I'm just waiting for it to collapse back down to 102K. Shout out to Huckleberry Finn. Listen, is it possible? Definitely. Nothing's impossible here. But it's all about the plan, guys. It's all about the plan. It's the if this, then that statement. If we do end up getting the rejection back down below the value area high, maybe we do get the drop down towards 104K. Again, very, very big level. And then if we lose 104K, just to kind of keep you guys aware in case we get some kind of black swan or something, I doubt this is going to happen over the next day or so. But if we did lose that monthly MPOC with a technical level of $104,946, if we're unable to, I'd be okay losing this level temporarily to deviate below the profile, but you really need that reclaim back into the profile. And, for the push up back to the value area high. But let's say you do lose that level, right? We do have that very, very nice level sitting at about $102,000. I'm going to get rid of this Fibonacci retracement level. I'm actually going to just drag this down to the value area low. We do have the $102,000 larger value area low. This is another really, really big level, right? Because if we do get down, let's just say we get some kind of mega dump, you get back down below 107K, you start to lose this point of control. Another reason why this monthly MPOC is so important, guys, is because it is also our macro value area high. As we know, we've been looking at this range forever. You would also be getting accepted into your upper macro range, right? And then at that point, right, I would personally say that the POC is open with the opportunity of potentially holding support on your value area low here at about 102K, right? And then as price comes down, this massive anchored VWAP, which has supported us very, very nicely down here on the sweep of 100,000. This could be a very, very nice confluent level for a potential bounce, right? And when you pull your Fibonacci from the absolute swing low to the high, right, you can see you do have the golden pocket sitting here. You also have the 786 sitting down there. So definitely a zone where we could get a bounce. But again, I wouldn't love the fact that we lost the monthly MPOC. So once we lose that, I'm saying the 97K POC would be open. However, opportunity to bounce here. Technically, the real line in the sand for me would be the 786 at about 101,159, right? Basically 102K. Lose this value area without a bounce back up, right? That's where you're, very likely to take that low into 97K. But as we're cruising to the upside, I don't think there's really much of a reason to be looking down there as of right now, right? If we have to look at those levels, we'll bring them back up when they're more relevant. But here we are sitting up at about $111,000, right? $111,000. So there you go. Those are the levels we're looking at. Nice to see those targets hit. And yeah, we'll see what happens, guys. Nicely hedged here in the long and the short. Making money whether price goes up or down. But let's go ahead. I do want to cover some of the altcoins as well, as I'm really upset that I was like, let me clean this up and share it with the Discord. It'll be nice and neat. And of course, I deleted the original range that we were looking at. But this range is pretty much the same thing, right? Pull your fib from the high to the low. Right, this 786, although Ethereum is starting to get the pop up, right? We do have dominance dropping, right? That's a good sign. We've been talking about our next major target to the upside for quite some time. I'm going to bring that up in a minute. I'm going to show you a new context that you can look at on Ethereum that kind of supports the same targets we've been looking at. It's a little more local and a little bit more clean to look at, though. Now, at the end of the day, when you're looking at this, could you get the rejection from the 786? If we get the SFP of the value area high / 786 zone, this was that next major zone, right? Pretty much. Oh, and maybe this is just the range we were looking at. This is 100% what we were looking at. Somebody go back to the stream yesterday and tell me if I'm correct. But yeah, that's where we say, well, hey, you're back above the value area low. Next stop is the POC. And as we chop around up here when things were a little bit boring, saying, hey, well, if, based off the volume profile, and I'm going to hammer this home today, guys, because, as things get a little sketchy, we always talk about the higher probability from a technical standpoint is to fill that volume profile in full, right? You get the low, the high, the low, the high, the low, the high, the low, the high, the low, back in. You're going to be looking for that full rotation of value into that value area high, especially when you have the Fibonacci retracement in confluence, right? Once you break above the POC, next target's the value area high. Once you get above the golden pocket, the next target is going to be the 786. And when you have those levels confluent, it's pretty nice, right? And this would be the line in the sand for me personally, right? If you are able to hold above that 786 and we get the bigger breakout, right? We do have a high volume node sitting here. This was an older level that we looked at for the drop to the downside, saying, hey guys, back here, we do not want to lose this high volume node because that will very likely cause a much bigger drop to the downside, which we did obviously get in an extremely brutal manner. But this volume node is still here. So, if we hold above the 786, just the general thought process here would be, well, hey, when you pull from the high to the low, if you're looking for a continuation, if you're looking for a high, a low, a lower high, and a lower low, that lower high is likely to come in between the golden pocket 786. That's why this 786 is so important. If you stay above it, right, you would be expecting a break of structure to the upside, right, which is right where we rejected on that last high on this high volume node. So if we crack this high, you could look for a push up. I mean, that's just what you would expect. High, low, no lower high here, so you would look for that break of structure to the upside. That's why that's the invalidation level, simply put. Now, if we do get the bigger breakout, what could we look at, right? And I don't want to make it sound like it's a guarantee or anything like that, but I mean, you see how it plays out, right? You get the full fill of the volume profile. Let's just say we hold this. We're going to be looking up to at least break structure to the upside. And if you can get the continued pump, what's that next bigger target to the upside for Ethereum? Well, very simply put, guys, it's going to be, we do have a daily MPOC sitting here at about 2982. This is the start, pretty much the start of that bigger zone. And what would be that big level to look at? I'm going to actually clean things up here just a bit. Get this, right? I'll turn off the daily MPOCs. Just from a Fibonacci standpoint on a higher time frame, well, we would say, hey, you have a high, a low, pull your Fibonacci retracement from the high to the low. You have your golden pocket 786 retracement up here. This is the next really, 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 really big zone of resistance, right? Especially with a big macro fib like this. So if we are going to break structure to the upside, right, we would look to potentially push into the next big key level of resistance, which sits here at the golden pocket / daily MPOC. Starting at about, I would say 2980, right? I'm going to mark this off of the box so I can just give you like the actual levels here. We're going to be looking up here for the golden pocket. You also have daily MPOC confluence up there. So if you break structure, that is the next level to look at. This has been our next macro target for Ethereum forever, right? We obviously chop around a little bit, but if we're going to continue the trend to the upside, this is the next big zone to look at. And now that we have dominance falling, maybe we could finally get that breakout. But you got to hold that 786. So watch. I would like to see the daily candle close above that 786. That would be the first decent sign. But yeah, that is still going to be the next target to the upside. And this is very, very confluent, guys. I will say confluent, but it's also a clean way to look at this, right? And this is the amazing thing about the volume profiles, guys. If we pull up the macro volume profile here, or not this, macro volume profile. This is the one that we've been looking at for quite some time. This was our doorway to higher prices when we were approaching. We knew once we got above that, we would go to the POC. And then as long as we were generally able to stay above that point of control, this is the overall larger volume profile. And just like we saw the lower time frame volume profile fill in full, right? We could also zoom out and look at this. Well, hey, you're above the value area low, right? Hold the POC. The doorway to the value area high is going to be open. Now, this is a longer-term target. We have all those local targets in between that we can get turbulence on. But overall, right, this would be the overall rotation of that volume profile. So over the long term, right, we may be looking back and being like, well, hey, there's that fulfill of the volume profile. And, hopefully we can eventually get out there and break new all-time highs. But that is the overall context, right? Larger value area, $2,100 value area low, POC at 2320. This was our biggest key level to the downside. If you bring up your anchored VWAP from the low, you can see anchored VWAP acting as beautiful support. This is beautiful to continue the uptrend. And, eventually this value area high at 35.34 could be the, I don't want to say end target, but the longer term target if we can break above the local target of 3,000 to 3,150, right? And if we pull that fib back up, right, from the high to the low, you can see your 786 is perfectly confluent with that value area high. Very similar to how this local range, actually, I'll just pull it up here. Where's it at? That is the range I'm going to bring up in a second. Am I tripping? Where did that range go? Right here, right? Just very similar to how our 786 was confluent on a lower time frame with this value area high, right? That's your next target to the upside if you can continue through the profile, right? It's the same theory, right? That this is quote unquote the $2,100 value area low, right? You push up into the POC. If you get all the way up to that value area high, right, you have that intermediate target of the golden pocket, right, which on the higher time frame would look like this. Right? Intermediate target, maybe you get a pullback, but eventually you're going to be looking up towards that 786. Simply put, right? Now, a nice, a new range, not a new range. This is a range that we've watched for a long time, but I haven't looked at it recently. This is pulled all the way from May of 2022, I believe. Yeah, April, May 2022, right? This range stops all the way here. You could see how well these levels are respected. And at this point, right, if you're looking at this volume profile, you break above the low, flip it to support, and where is your next target to the upside? The nice thing here is the POC is very close to the value area high, and you can see this profile, value area low at 25.21, value area high at 31.64, and then you have your golden pocket in between. At the end of the day, right, we could start to look at this range and say, well, hey, we flip that value area low to support, like literally almost like to the actual dollar, right, all the way from 2022. We could look for a continuation up. And where is that next key level of resistance? Well, it's sitting right up here on that golden pocket, right? Closer to the, or I'm sorry, let me get rid of this. I'll just hide it real quick, right? That value area high is also confluent with our bigger macro target of the golden pocket daily MPOC, sitting at 3,000 to 3,150. Does that make sense? Right? Just continuing up through the profile. So locally, we can watch this range, and I will be watching it, right? Right now, as long as we hold above this value area low at 25.23, we can look for a fulfill this volume profile, right? If we start breaking back down below, we can start looking at those earlier levels that we looked at. We'll bring up those other ranges. But right now, I'm liking this volume profile, to be quite honest. Obviously, you do have the kind of local profile that we just looked at, right? But at the end of the day, this would be kind of the medium-term range that I'm watching. Next target. In the same exact spot as when we look at the larger time frames, right? Same exact thing, sitting right up here. But it's beautifully confluent with that May value area high, which would make sense to eventually get the continuation up to those targets. There you go. That's what we're looking at. Shout out to Ethereum, finally getting a little move to the upside. Nothing really too exciting, to be honest, right? We're just back at the top of these highs, but nice to finally. I'm excited that Bitcoin's pumping, guys, but I'm more excited that things are moving, right? I probably would be somewhat excited even if we were dumping, right? Just getting sick of that choppy price action. Let's see. Bada boom, bada bing. Shout out to Zach. Thank you for the super chat, bro. He said, "You're the best, Frankie." When you posted it in Discord, I've just took the short at 111,777, baby. Let's go. What do we need for a bigger drop? Bear divs, money flow. Okay, so let's take a look at that back at Bitcoin real quick, and then I'm going to take a look at some of the other altcoins. We're going to take a look at Aerodrome. We'll take a look at XRP, by the way. Anybody that tuned in, not even yesterday, but anyone's been tuned into this channel for quite some time. What have we been looking at on the XRP chart, guys? Can't make it up. Volume profiles. If you do not know how to use the volume profiles, please, for the love of God, go to the beginner series. I have so much free content talking about how to trade Fibonacci, volume profiles, and not only how to trade them, but how to use them for targets, right? So you can see here, we deviated below the low, flipped the value area low to support, even updating with the local levels to continue our trend to the upside, right? Looking for a flip of the value area low where we have the golden pocket confluence, right? You come in, high, higher low, higher high, right? We even looked at like some of the other targets, like where would the next higher low likely come in? Well, we're going to be looking at the golden pocket 786. You put the high in, higher low comes in where? Golden pocket 786, so on and so forth, right? But looking for the eventual continuation into our target on XRP, which is sitting right up here on the golden pocket, point of control, sitting at $2.40. And here we are. Insane. Right? And it's not just, it's not just me, right? It's just the TA that we teach here for free. You can do this too, right? It's not, trust me, if I could do it, you could do it. I promise you that. Now, trading it is, a totally different skill, but, looking at the charts and understanding this stuff, it gives you a very clear roadmap for where price is going to go next. It gets scary, right? Because it's like, oh my God, we're dumping again. But if you know where to look for those higher lows, you could at least have a line in the sand on where to expect the continuations to the upside for your higher highs and your higher lows, right? Into your next major target. And you could say to yourself, well, hey, if we maintain this bullish trend, that next target, I'm already expecting a move from the value area low to the POC, and then understanding the local market structure can help you anticipate or just, use it as confluence. Like, well, hey, my major target's here. Is there a probability of that happening? Well, yeah, if we're in a bullish trend and we hold the higher lows, then beautiful. We can look to continue up there. You have 2 reasons and probably many more reasons to look up towards those targets. So, but yeah, we'll jump into that in just a minute. Let me come on over to Bitcoin. And we'll take a look at Market Cypher B. I'll be honest, right? I was saying to the premium Discord earlier today, it's the Market Cypher B has been, at least on the daily here, we've had a lot of chop, right? All in this choppy price action, right? It's been a pretty difficult situation, right? I've been very, very picky with my trades here, as I've mentioned many other times. It's just very, very choppy. The scalps are just like short-lived. The final targets don't get hit. And these are sometimes just the environments that you're in. And you can see that you have a red dot with an immediate green dot right after. Then you get another red dot. You're thinking, oh my God, are we going to come down? You get an immediate green dot. So you just get a little bit of choppiness up here. We call these VWAP flips. And what this tells me is like, the bears try to bring it back down, and then, the bulls just come right back in and push it back up. So, when you get VWAP flips, it's bullish. And when you get the opposite of this, where you get an instant green dot and then an instant red dot, that would be a VWAP flop. I just made up that term. And that would be the opposite, right? It would obviously be a little bit more bearish. But you can see here, bears try to take it down, send it back up. Bears try to take it down, send it back up. Bears try to take it down, send it back up. So yeah, very, very choppy here. I will say this, money flow is still technically dropping to the downside here. But as I was talking about yesterday, I am putting a lot more weight on the key levels, right? And I'm glad I did, because when you look at this, you're saying to yourself, well, hey, money flow is coming out. This indicates that, lower highs and lower lows are likely, right? Which is why we were looking at this 786 Fibonacci retracement as a very key level to get above, right? It's like, well, hey, if we're going to reject, we're probably going to reject from this key level. And actually, let me come down to a lower time frame here. It was actually going to be, sorry, I'm kind of lost here, right? If you're going to look for that local lower high, it's going to come in here on that Fibonacci retracement, right? And we blast right through it, flip it to support, and send it back to the upside. So paying much more attention to the key levels, the market structure. Obviously, Market Cypher B is extremely helpful, extremely accurate. But when you have to identify the environment, right? Like when you just have chop like this, you have to be aware of like, hey, money flow's coming out, but other things are saying up. So you have to, no indicator is going to be able to just 100% tell you where price is going. I would still say this is generally trending to the downside, right? So, yeah, I would say if you want more all-time highs, like we really need to see this money flow come back up in a really big way. And we've seen money flow fake outs in the past. I bring this up all the time here. You could see, where is it? Right back here. We had money flow coming out, right? We had the ETF approval. We got the dump. Money flow's coming out. You would be thinking to yourself, oh my God, lower highs and lower lows are likely. But we actually did talk about this money flow faking out at the time. It was a little easier to identify than it is right now. But just to show, you can get fake outs on money flow. We need something like this, right? If money flow keeps coming out on the daily, we need something like that. And it would likely end up being something like this, right? If it crosses into the red and we don't get the fake out, it's very hard to predict these things. But just to give you that kind of thought, right? Like you need this to fake out to the upside, right? If this crosses back into the red, like that's why I'm just putting a little less weight on the indicators right now and focusing more on the key levels, the market structure, and the volume profiles. So yeah, so just, warning sign there. Money flow is coming out, but, I am putting that as like a B tier confluence, right? So there you go, right? So money flow coming to the downside on the daily, but we do have a fresh green dot printing, right? With our 90-minute money flow in the green, which would indicate that the trend is going to continue up. And you do get the continuation of that trend to the upside. Big old bearish wick here, guys. Good Lord. So, I would say the bearish case here would be, hey, money flow crosses into the red. We get the massive SFP at our key level here, and then you get the bigger correction down. So yeah, I would. Let's take a look at the 4-hour real quick. This 4-hour VWAP has been playing around this zero line for quite some time. You almost printed the red dot. You didn't print it. Money flow was coming into the red, but again, choppy on the money flow. There's going to be times where your indicators are going to be in like lower probability environments. Takes time to understand when you're in those environments, but hopefully me coming up here and talking about that helps you guys identify that. But you had your money flow coming into the red dot looking to print, but you never printed it. Money flow fake back out into the green. So I would say, generally for significant medium-term continuations down, I think if you're going to continue to pull back here, that 4-hour red dot might be something to look at. If you get that 4-hour red dot with your 15-minute money flow crossing over into the red at the same time, this could indicate a little bit more of a trend to the downside, right? But this has already played out pretty nicely with a, wick to wick here. Nice 1.32% drop. So shout out to Zach. I appreciate you, bro. That's what I'd be keeping an eye on. But again, I am being a little bit careful with the indicator signals. So shout out to Zach. Shout out to Indian Martini says, what, the early stream? Shout out to Indian. Hey, when price moves, we got to go live, baby. Could have used some Frankie Candles intro music to hype me up towards the end for real. Shout out to Hugo's. Maybe we'll drop some. If we start pumping again, maybe we'll drop some. We'll play some music live here. Dutchy said bearish wicks have feelings too, Frankie. Don't judge them. I'm not going to lie. I mean, if this thing dumps, I will actually like that wick. Or not this wick, but higher time frame. Now, one thing I would look for here, guys, be careful of this. Again, SFPs on a higher time frame, right? I obviously entered this. I'm going to give a little sauce here for anyone looking to learn how to trade. This is a very simple thing you can look for. SFPs, again, some of the highest probability, best risk-to-reward trades you can take, in my opinion, or I should say in my experience. But here's something we really don't want to see, right? Which honestly isn't looking that good right now. But if we do wind up closing the daily candle here, I'm going to pull up those key levels of resistance again real quick. We'll take a look at the daily MPOCs, right? We have some wicks here, right? We have this wick, potential SFP. I would not and I would also watch this one right here, the most recent high that we made. If we get a daily SFP of this entire zone, you could look at that as a little bit more bearish, right? But at the end of the day, right, and this is the sauce I want to drop for you guys as far as trading goes, could you potentially look for a short position on a daily SFP? Candle comes back down below, closes underneath here, right? And then you print your next candle. That could cause a much bigger drop to the downside. However, so watch out for that on the daily close. If you enter that, right, you're getting, let's say you enter, let's say you get the candle closure right below this wick, right, or right on that wick. You're missing out on, call it, 1.32%, right? Not the worst thing in the world, but to get better entries, right? You don't always get the signal that I shorted off of, which again was the 15-minute SFP. So if you're, when you're in a situation where you can look for a high time frame SFP, typically you're going to get a better entry taking the short at the lower time frame SFP, right? So instead of entering down there, right, where's that wick? And so instead of entering like down here, you would get a better entry where I'm in at over here, right? But that's because I entered on the same candlestick pattern, but on a 15-minute time frame, right? So we got it on the 15-minute, we got it on the 10-minute, we didn't get it on the 5-minute. Yeah, so the 10-minute and everything above there, 15-minute, 24-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute, right? And all these, all those are just swing fails, right? So you could see that as like a longer-term signal, not typically where I look to enter my trades. Like I said, I like to snipe those tops and literally show you exactly what I look for to snipe those tops. But if we got that daily SFP, I'd feel pretty good about my entry up there. But if you're looking for better entries on your SFPs, you can look for those lower time frame entry points or lower time frame SFPs to get a better entry. So there you go. So that's kind of something I would also watch for if you get a daily SFP of that zone. Like, I don't want to say it's going to dump us to zero or anything like that, but it would just technically be a bearish sign. So daily SFP of that wick. This wick does sit here at the previous high, sitting at about 110.5. That would be kind of bearish signal number one. Then if you get the 4-hour red dot with the 15-minute money flow crossover, that's what I would look for to actually start the move, right? Or start the bigger move, if you will. So there you go. Shout out to Jesse. Said I told yesterday in the chat, free liquidity now. Shout out to Jesse. Good Lord. All right, let's see here. Shout out to Martin. Said Bitcoin dominant. Shout out to Martin. We actually already took a look at Bitcoin dominance. Obviously, I'll just touch on this very briefly before we jump into the other altcoins. Right. Obviously, we are getting a nice little drop on dominance here within our resistance zone, which technically, like if we pulled up like a super high time frame, right, like between this golden pocket 786, obviously. This is a very large range, but 786 sits up there at 66.21%. We don't have to physically tap that. It is very nice to see this drop down with ETH getting a little bit of a pump to the upside. Could we wind up seeing something, right? Let's see. Let's go back here a little bit. Let's come on to the daily. And, see if we could pull this real quick. Right, so, in this case, you had a full rotation of the profile back in, you lose the POC, and then really it's the loss of this value area low where I would think that you see the real moves on the altcoins, right? So, like, what you're hoping for here, if the top is in for Bitcoin dominance, right, you're really hoping for something like this, right? Maybe you push in, if we do dump from here, just be aware you do have the point of control underneath you at 64.24%. And then once you break down out of that value area low, that would be really the thing, in my opinion, that would likely start a much bigger alt season. So we still have some work to do, but very nice to see the dump here, right? Like, this is obviously going to be good. This is obviously good for altcoins. We see Ethereum getting the pump. And I'm going to bring up the altcoins in a second because there's been some stuff we've been looking at, guys. Oh man, 2-day money flow crossovers. I don't know. I don't want to get like super FOMO on you guys. Like I don't want to say like this is alt season, right? But I would say, even if we get a push back up into that 786, this is still the area where you would want to get the big rejection from, because if we get above this and hold, it's going to be very bearish for altcoins, right? We're probably going to be looking up towards 68.87%. But until we break that 786, this is the next zone where we would be looking for that rejection. And I actually do have an alert set here, an altcoin alert. I'm not going to lie, guys. It might be close to triggering here. It might be close to triggering. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember exactly what I sat on the charts at like 1 in the morning one day, and I was like looking at dominance, just trying to figure out, what were the signs we saw back here that triggered the bigger drop to the downside. And I'll just give you a little hint here. I don't know. Daily money flow as you're coming back down. And just to point this out, right, you can get turbulence here, right? You can bounce off the value area low back to the POC, but if that money flow continues out on the daily, guys, that was really the thing that broke us down out of that volume profile previously. And you can see here, daily money flow attempting to continue to the downside here, right? So if we can lose this, I'd say this POC is a big level of resistance. If we can, maybe you get the daily money flow crossover into the red there, that could cause the first big drop down, right? And then money flow, you can go up to the 2-day and say, well, hey, if the 2-day money flow is continuing out, we can lose the value area low, and maybe that's where the bigger alt season starts. And it's crazy how this is timing up very, very closely to when we may be getting rate cuts coming in very soon. It's very interesting, very interesting. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see. Shout out to Dutchy says, Andy needs anger management. Shout out to Dutchy. Who's Andy? From Toy Story? Shout out to Dutchy. Let's see. Simano, what is going on, bro? He says the most likely be the biggest, most unexpected pump in crypto ever soon. Shout out to Simano. I was actually talking about yesterday, not saying it's going to be like the biggest shock ever, but talking about if we do break out of here, it could be like a shocking push to the upside. And even talking to the premium Discord, pretty crazy. I was talking about how like when we're just kind of bing-bonging around here, right? And when you see price compressing like this, guys, it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's, again, I am not a huge pattern trader. Not that you can't trade patterns profitably. I'd be an idiot to say that. You could totally trade patterns. I don't technically trade them. I do use them for like technical targets, and I will bring up on Solana some technical targets that I'm looking at and some patterns. Not that I would be trading based off of them, but I'm using them as confluence and using them for technical targets. But when you see price compress like this, guys, anytime you're in any kind of a pattern, whether it's a symmetrical triangle, a bull pennant, an ascending triangle, anything like that, right? When you start to see price compressing like this or just coiling up, there is typically a big move ahead. And I even said in the Discord, guys, like just kind of coiling up here, we could see a big move soon, right? And there it is, right? You coil up, you break out, and you get the big move. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I would say, is it possible to just kind of keep screaming up here? It's definitely possible, but just be aware, right? If you get the correction, it's not just like all over, right? A lot of the times you will get bigger retracements to the downside, right? And we've been comparing this to the 2024 price action over here, right? It's like, oh my God, we're breaking out, right? And then you get a little correction, but what does it do, right? You just wind up putting in a higher low and a higher high, which was not on this Fibonacci retracement, but probably this higher low right here. But same thing here, right? You have a lower high potentially forming, or it does form, right? And you put your little correction in, but was it all over? No, you put the higher low in and you creep onto the upside. And then it's very confusing and choppy on the way up, right? You just kind of boom, 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 and then eventually out of nowhere, boom, right? Usually driven by news, right? We all know the election and everything giving us that big push up. Like this is, who knows? Maybe we get the bullish news, and just in the same way, right? You can get bearish news as well, so be aware of that. But this is just what I'm looking at, guys. Just still keeping my same sentiment for the long-term bullish scenario here. Rate cuts potentially coming. That would be good for altcoins. That would be good for the final phases of the bull market. Is the final phase of the bull market here? I hope so. It does seem to be timing out absolutely perfectly, right? And I'm going to stick by that. Could be wrong, right? Everybody's wrong. But that's what I'm just going to stick to it. Let's see. Steve Livingston said if BTC follows its dominant, its cycle dominance will go up more. Sorry. Shout out to Steve. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to say it's impossible. Definitely not impossible for dominance to go back up, right? But when you start to look at this from a timing perspective, right, if we do go back up, 786 is key. I would say if we break the 786, dominance could go up a lot, right? Because if we break that 786, the next target is sitting up here at 68.93%. this is not impossible, but we do have to be aware that this is also a very big level of resistance. So is there an opportunity for this to be the top, right? Even if we come back up and tap the 786, play around with it, and then lose it, right? This is still a big level of resistance for dominance. So it's definitely an opportunity, definitely not guaranteed, right? But yeah, I mean, listen, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if we get the rate cuts. But I do want to take a look at some of the altcoins with you guys as well. Let's see. Do you think the cycle will end earlier in August? We are 2 months ahead if we push up now. Shout out to Sparklit. I will say this. I think that's what your name was. Listen, timing is very, very, very difficult, right? And actually, hilariously enough, I didn't know this was going to happen. But I have been experimenting with some time fibs to try to anticipate when things may happen. I'm not really going to talk too much about this, but I will say there is an interesting date on the chart here sitting, and again, this wouldn't be like to the day. And again, I would take this with a grain of salt, guys. Timing is very hard. But if you did push into this fib level here, this time fib level, and it's crazy that it lines up with the idea that if you get rate cuts in September, right, and then you get or maybe even earlier, right, depending on when it happens, that's typically, if we see Bitcoin make that new all-time high, alt season starts. Remember, this is the grand finale of the bull market, right? People think the bull market is just starting, but clearly, if you watch this channel, if you've been in crypto, we've been in a bull market for quite some time. This is what helps me stay bullish on any dips to the downside or significant dips to the downside, like this drop to 75K, like this drop down into the 50s. This is a clear bull market, right? So 30% corrections are to be expected. This is not typically the time. Bitcoin cracking its all-time high by a few dollars and then getting a 30% correction is not the time to sell your bag. It is the time to start looking for higher lows and higher highs to come. Higher lows, higher highs to come, which is what we were looking at every single time this happened because of my understanding of the cycles. This is my third crypto cycle. And I will just say, right, if we are in those final stages, October-ish might be an interesting time to watch. I'll just say that, right? These time fibs are typically, you will see big reversals or continuations through these fib time zones, and it is just crazy. If we do get those rate cuts, this timing in October would be very, very, very interesting, right? Let's just say you do wind up getting a continuation up, right? And we're up at crazy levels at that point. Again, not something I would generally trade off of, but I would be looking at this as from a timing wise to be just interesting place to look, right? Just keep that in mind. Maybe I'll drop a video on this explaining it a little bit more, but I'll just say, October. I'm not going to try to call the top. This is very difficult to do, right? If we get up to massive levels, right, we have some crazy things going on, and things look super bullish, I'm not just instantly going to expect the top to come in here because it's October 25th, right? That's just not how I would trade. But you start to combine this with other things, and it starts to be confluent with a lot of other things. It does become very, very interesting. But I'll be the first person to tell you, if we get up here and it's October 25th, if we even put in a new all-time high, right, maybe we just chop into this level, I'm not just going to be looking at that alone, right? If things look bullish, I'm going to think it goes up. If it looks bearish, I'm going to think it's going down, right? But definitely an interesting place to look, especially from a timing-wise and a cycle perspective. So anyway, if you guys want to see your favorite altcoins, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Let me see here. We did go live a little bit early. Darren, if you wanted to do the alt list tonight, because I don't know if Rob is here yet, I would greatly appreciate that. So if you want to see your favorite altcoins, go ahead and drop them in the chat right now. And we will take a look at XRP, Solana, and Aerodrome. Those are ones that are already on the list. And then maybe I'll free ball some of them too. Darren, let's do 3 requests, and then I'll just run through them. And I'm just gonna go ahead and yap here. We'll check in on random ones as well. Shout out to Nicholas Perry, said, Frankie, what about Christmas? Shout out to Perry. Shout out to Tyler Durden. What is going on, bro? He says alts. Who cares about alts? Hey, guys, I'm not going to lie. We did pray to those crypto gods with a reverse psychology yesterday, and it low-key worked. I'm not going to lie. But shout out to Tyler Durden. Let's see. Shout out to Jet said, in all previous cycles, BTC has never went below the level it was at on election day in November 2024. This is at about $70,000, so don't expect to ever see a $30,000 Bitcoin again. Plausible. plausible. I mean, let's say we did top out here. Let's say we top out at 100. Oh, we'll go conservative, right? $130-ish thousand. You know, again, obviously bear markets could be muted, but like even if you only top out at $133,000, this random number up here, right? We do have some fib extensions up there, but let's say we do get like a 70-ish% pullback, right, which could be muted as the bull markets go by, right? The volatility gets muted a little bit, so you could expect a little bit less of a drop percentage-wise. I mean, 75% would get you to 32K, but that's if you top out at $133,000. Now, I would say, you know, that's not like a super astronomical target either. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's plausible. Yeah, depending on how high we come, you know, it's definitely a, I would say if we topped out where we're at right now, right, which I do not fall in that camp, obviously. You know, a 75, let's say 75% correction would be 27K, but based off my thesis, right, I would say probably, you know, especially if we continue up, I would kind of agree with that. But we'll find those bear market targets, guys. We'll have a whole bear market to go through together, and we'll see what targets come in. But I think it's a plausible thought. Oh yeah, we already did ETH. We already did XRP. Shout out to Eugene Sky, said XRP to 1K. What are they smoking? Shout out to Eugene. I will just bring this up real quick, guys, because I know it's like exciting. We're pumping. Again, it's so funny. It's like, you know, when the market's been boring because like we're only up a little bit. But again, you know, my targets for this bull market for XRP, we've been talking about this long-term consolidation. When you compare this to something like, what is this, 2017, right? Typically when you have these long-term consolidations, they do end in pretty massive pumps to the upside, right? And it doesn't guarantee it, but this is a very, very, very similar situation. And I'll be honest, guys, like my major targets for XRP, you know, local targets here between about, you know, I would say $4 and $5 to start off, right? My major target number one is sitting at about $5.30. And then if we can continue to get that pump to the upside, right? The next targets, you know, I'm looking at between about $8 and $10. I would start to be a little bit suspicious. Obviously, we'll approach the charts, see what the price action is saying. But I would say between, you know, $8 and $10 on the higher side, maybe into about $14. But I don't know. I don't really understand the argument for XRP to 1,000, XRP to 500, XRP to 10,000. Some people think 32,000 for a reason. It's based off some kind of math. I don't truly understand it, so I really hate to like fade it too heavy. But from I'm humble enough to understand that I don't know everything, right? So maybe they have a good argument. Listen, I would love for XRP to go to $1,000, not anywhere near the targets that I'm looking at, right? I'm looking at much more realistic technical targets. So just to kind of like give you the expectations that I have. Now, if this thing just winds up ripping up in a giant green candle to $100, then we could just reassess and continue to do the TA, right? But I am not just going to expect that to happen especially for things that I don't know about, right? Like I don't really know what the argument there is, but from what I look at, these are, you know, first zone, second zone, right? I'm definitely not going to, I mean, I will hold a lot of my XRP long term, but I'm not just going to hold my entire bag. Like I'm going to be taking profits on the way up. So just be aware of that. And again, these structures do oftentimes break out. And I'm not saying it has to happen right this second. You know, you could chop around here for a little bit more. You might get a fake out back in, right? I like to manage the expectations, right? Because, you know, price action can be very wonky sometimes. But there you go. I do want to take a look at, we'll jump into Solana really quickly here because there is something I want to talk about with you guys. When we look at Solana, yesterday we were looking at something here, you know, something, you know, somewhat of a head and shoulders formation. You know, I'm not a big pattern guy, but I will just say, you know, this really all patterns are, in my opinion, or I guess technically all they are just like a way to describe bottom structures, right? Or at least an inverse head and shoulders, just a way to describe a bottom structure, right? But like if you kind of draw this out as something like a head and shoulders, right? When you do this, right, you can get some kind of a technical target. We did this yesterday on the stream. This would kind of give you, I mean, this, I don't recommend drawing your technical targets with a brush. Typically, I'll just do this the right way. I don't want to teach so I'll just draw the neckline here just roughly, right? And then you would grab from the neckline, and then you would drag it all the way down to the low, and then you pop it up here, right? And this would give you an agreeable confluent target, which would be the value area low sitting at about 183.47. So if we do get a bigger breakup here on Solana, you know, there's a few different reasons to be looking up towards about $183. Now, this is a huge level. Every time we approach this level, it's going to be resistance until proven otherwise. But once we break above this value area low, guys, we could start looking at upper targets here towards the golden pocket POC at about $216. You have the, you know, somewhat of a head and shoulders. It's a double, triple quad shoulder, head and shoulders, right? But just at the end of the day, I would typically use this as your technical target. And again, it does bring you up right in that zone of about $184. So if we do get the bigger continuation up, and it's not just that, right? As we look at the 2-day time frame, you guys know that 2-day money flow is something that we've been paying attention to. Money flow will indicate the overall trend more often than not. And these 2-day money flow crossovers are oftentimes very bullish for price action, right? You can see you had a 2-day money flow crossover right here, in which case people would probably be looking and being like, 2-day money flow crossover, we're going to the moon. And then they get super scared. But you have to understand money flow indicates the trend. It does not account for the ebbs and flows in the market, right? It's just the overall trend that it's confirming, right? Or indicating, I should say. So, but you can see here, 2-day money flow crossover. Sure, there's ebbs and flows, right? Doesn't mean it's going to go up in a straight line, but the overall trend continues up in a massive, massive way, right? You get a nice little if you pull it up to this wick here, 122%, right? So, and then even back here, 2-day, we had this marked out from yesterday, right? 2-day money flow crossover, massive move up, 920%, right? Again, 2-day money flow crosses over, but once that red dot prints, you get a little ebb to the downside before continuing the overall trend. So again, just to manage like how this stuff actually plays out, sure, 2-day money flow is crossing into the green, that's very nice, but if you get the breakout, right, doesn't mean that you can't get another little correction to the downside, but the overall anticipation will be a continuation to the upside. Targeting about 183.91. Once you get above that, we can start to look to come into this range, target the POC, and eventually maybe this monthly / value area high at 237, and hopefully shoot up to the 786 and maybe get this thing to send into new all-time highs. Again, doesn't have to happen tomorrow or today or next week or 2 weeks from now, right? But, you know, we have to see these things on the chart before they actually play out, so you can take advantage of them potentially, especially if you're not in altcoins just yet. Just my thoughts, right? And we had a nice big red money flow wave here, right? You know, I would be more worried about a fake out if this wasn't such a, you know, we spent a lot of time in the red here, you know, not a, yeah, I don't think, you know, it would make a lot of sense to, you know, finally come up into a bigger green wave. And we also have the monthly VWAP on the way to the upside. Let me take a look at this on the Heikin-Ashi candles. Yeah, so monthly VWAP still kind of curving up. So you don't really have the market cipher B116 strategy playing out, but it is nice that this VWAP has been below the zero line for quite some time. Eventually, we're going to have to come up and cross over into the green, or cross over the zero line and print a green dot, right? Won't be confident with the 2-day money flow, but just something to look at, right? Generally, the 2-day money flow crossover on altcoins tends to be somewhat of a nice sign. So watch $184, right? That is your doorway to higher prices. Could be resistance until proven otherwise, but once you break above it, could be nice, right? And again, you start to line this up with all the other timing of things, starts to look pretty decent. Let's see. Shout out to Darren. Thank you for the alt list, brother. I'm going to go ahead and pin that to the top of the chat. Bada boom. Let's see here. Everything is possible. Shout out to SZs. As a trader, you 100% need to be aware of all situations. 100%. You can have your bias, right, and your higher probability situations, right? You could have this is what trading's about, right? You set the key levels as traps in the market, right? And then you do your TA, you line up the bullish puzzle pieces and the bearish puzzle pieces, and then you weigh them against each other to come up with your bias, right? If you have way more bullish puzzle pieces than bearish puzzle pieces, you're always going to find, this is why keeping emotion out of your trades and just your investing in general is so important, because your brain will automatically funnel towards looking for stuff that is going to agree with your emotional bias, right? But when you take a binary logical view of the markets, right, you could just stack the bearish stuff, stack the bullish stuff, and like if it heavily outweighs on one side, you could say, hey, it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to break out, but that's the higher probability situation. And that's why risk management is so important, because you are never, ever going to be able to find somebody or become a person that's just going to know exactly when it's going up or down without entertaining the other end of the coin. And as a trader, being able to make money trading Bitcoin, whether the price goes up or down, you not only want to be able to protect yourself by paying attention to both sides, but you can also just flip your sentiment, right? If you get up to a key level and you think you're going to break out into new all-time highs and then you see a really bearish setup, it might be worth taking a little shot at least a scalp short there, because if you wind up being wrong, because even if the probability is higher that you're going up, sometimes the market will just shock you and get another move to the downside, right? And you want to not only protect yourself, but also open up another opportunity to hedge yourself in case the opposite happens. You can make money in both ways. So that's the way I approach the charts. I mean, not just me, right? Many traders will do, all traders will do that. But 100%, anything can happen. You know, who knows, right? You can have a black swan event, right? You could have the most bullish chart in the world, and then, you know, you get some kind of, not that this was the most bullish chart in the world, but you could have like the most bullish sign ever. Oh my God, we're going up, right? And then something crazy happens and you go down, right? So you have to be careful of that stuff as well. But yeah, I always try to like let people know, right? If you're getting into TA if you think you're ever going to get to a point where you're just going to automatically know every time whether it's guaranteed to go up or down, you're chasing something that just simply doesn't exist, right? The key is understanding that you have to look at both sides and then just take the higher probability move. And even if that higher probability move fails, the risk management is what protects you. The higher probabilities will play out more than they won't, but not 100%, right? So you have to protect yourself on the whatever it is, 20, 30, 40, 50, depending on your strategy, right? You don't have to be right 100% of the time. You don't even have to be right 80% of the time. You could have a much lower win rate, and as long as you're protecting yourself with good risk management, over time, you're gonna wind up in the green. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Yo, shout out to World said, think how fast Frankie talks. He's one of the lizard people for sure. Calls the bottom, timed perfectly. Calls the top. He's just one of the good ones. Maybe it's Mrs. Candle's side. He married in. Yo, shout out to World. I swear I'm not a lizard person. I swear. But anyway, let's continue on. Yeah, shout out to SZ says all it takes is a Sunday tweet from Trump. 100%, right? That could totally happen, right? It's funny. It's like we're finally pumping, and it's like, all right, where's the tweet? Come on, Trump, do your thing, drop something on Twitter, and just ruin the fun. Shout out to Wick589. Shout out to Wick589 said, don't listen to this, guys. I'm the only one who can read the goat guts. The goat guts to tell you where BTC is going. Shout out to Wick589. He is the goat lizard person translator and a famous poet. Shout out to Wick589. Hope you're doing well, bro. We saw Wick's wife. We saw your wife in here yesterday. Wick's wife, Fine89. But I didn't see you, bro. I didn't see you. Were you in here yesterday? Let me know. All right, let's see. Any opinion on Monero? We can take a look at Monero, no problem. I do want to take a look at Aerodrome. I swear is what I swear is what a lizard person would say. Shout out to Mike Bennett, bro. Oh, God. 112K short LFG. Let's go. Shout out to Crypto Al. Send it to zero, baby. Send it to zero. But, yeah, let's go ahead and jump on in here, too. I do want to take a look at Aerodrome because we looked at Aerodrome yesterday, and we looked at a very, very specific level. That's not Aerodrome. Where is Aero? Bada boom, right? So as we looked at Aerodrome yesterday, guys, looking at the was it Aerodrome or was it Ondo? I think it was Aerodrome. So yeah, as we looked at this, right, this was our big level of support. We have the anchored VWAP from the low. This is a very, very, very important level to keep above in order to continue the trend to the upside, right? You hold it here, you get your low, your high, your higher low, your higher high. You have your golden pocket POC confluence here on Aerodrome, point of control, golden pocket, and your anchored VWAP, right? We also have this local volume profile, which I'll bring up in just a second. But if we want to continue this overall trend to the upside, and this would just be the case for this actual trend to continue, right? Doesn't mean that you can't break down, but if you want to continue this trend to break structure to the upside, potentially targeting this level up here at about $104,000, this is the area for the higher low to potentially come in. And we are getting a nice little bounce there on Aerodrome, not too shabby. But as of right now, the only thing I really don't love about this is the fact that we've approached from the top, right? When you approach from the high of the volume profile, right, the overall anticipation based off the laws of the volume profile is that you could potentially, if you can't break out of this value area high, you could eventually fill that range in full. But if you're going to hold a level here, I said yesterday we were talking about how I don't really love this level. And why is that, right? It's really because if we're going to bounce, you either want to bounce here. Obviously, the 786 is an area that you could bounce out as well. But once you break down below the golden pocket, you're also below the anchored VWAP. This is just a much better level to bounce off of, or it's just a better support to hold, right? If you just want to continue that aggressive uptrend. Once you lose this, you're going to be looking down towards the 786 daily. Why don't I really like this? It doesn't mean you can't bounce there, but the reason I don't really love this is because at that point, right, it's much more likely if you're going to get the breakout from the point of control. If I'm going to long anywhere within a profile that isn't the value area low, I want it to be the POC, right? I like to look for longs. Typically within the volume profile, you're looking for longs at the lows, shorts at the highs. Simply put. Undervalued price, bullish confirmations, bullish divergence, right? Once you get back into the range, you look to go to the POC, push up to the value area high. When you get expensive, right, when you deviate above the fair value within the volume profile, inside of it is the fair value. Below it is cheap, above it is expensive. That's why we're very good at making these calls, right? Because a lot of them are based off just the value, right? These are important, like in my opinion, the most important levels on the chart. So when you approach from the high, you're expecting a potential acceptance into the range. The best place to bounce if you're not going to go all the way to the value area low is the POC, in my opinion, especially if it's confluent with the golden pocket like this. But once you break below the POC, it's a very high probability you're going to see that value area low. That is why I don't really love this. I only like to really long at the value area low, short at the value area high. If I have to make an exception and take a long in the middle of a range, I like it to be with on the POC with good confluence, which we do have here, right? So if we lose this, honorable mention down here at 58 to about 55 cents, but I just don't love this level. I would just much rather take the long at the value area low. But we could cross that bridge if and when we get there. As of right now, we're holding that key level of support. Very, very nice to see. Can't hate that too much. Real quick, I also want to take a look at I'm just going to run down this list a little bit because there are some things I want to take a look at. Atom, this is the thing that I was actually talking about. Not Aerodrome, it was Atom. Yesterday, someone asked me to look at Atom. I believe it was yesterday. Yeah. Looking at Atom as we were pushing above this volume profile, you can see here about during the live stream, we had gotten outside of this range. We started to get a little bit of a pullback. And when we look at this, if we want that continuation to the upside, where are we going to be looking, guys? And the reason I bring this up is because I've been talking about these Fibonacci retracements for a very long time. This is a trend continuation tool, right? So in the volume profile, sure, we like to have confluence on the value area levels, but if you're in a trend, right, you're looking to catch a trade inside the trend, we looked at this, and this was not looking that bad, right? We got out of that volume profile. We were also, the reason I like this for a continuation up was because not only are you potentially looking to break out of your local range here, but you're also looking to break into a much larger range to the upside, right? If you break out of this range and you have a value area low above, right, you're saying to yourself, well, hey, this value area low is potentially going to be the doorway to higher prices. So if you're looking for longs here, where are you going to be if you're expecting this to be an actual breakout, and then you start to look at some of these other time frames, 2-day money flow coming up, you have your daily green dot was printing. If you were going to get that continuation up, you don't want to enter in on the big green candle, right? I mean, technically, I guess you could have entered there, right? You could have just like long at the top, as long as your stop loss was below here, you would have been good. But what do I like to do? I like to wait for the retracement, and because when you're able to identify where those high probabilities of the higher low are going to come in, you can find a much better entry, right? So we actually talked about that retracement into this local golden pocket, pulled from, I'll pull up a lower time frame, pulled from the low to the high. If you're going to put in a higher low and a higher high, continuing to break structure to the upside, this would be the level to look at. And you can see, we literally tapped into that golden pocket perfectly. And then as you start to get the bigger breakout, if you're breaking structure to the upside, where's the next place for price to likely go? Well, you can go ahead and take this stuff off the chart, and you could just start to look at your upper profile, right? Because if I hide this local range, you're saying to yourself, well, hey, we're knocking on the door here to a massive doorway to higher prices. So we could say to ourselves, hey, if we push into this range, if we push into this value area and flip the low to support, maybe we'll get accepted into the range and get a much bigger move up. You break out of your local range, you flip that value area low to support. This is the level that we drew yesterday, right? We're not just like drawing this right before the stream to say it bounced, right? These are the exact levels that we looked at and the exact plan. You break up, flip the value area low to support, and now you could potentially get accepted into this range and work your way up towards a much higher target at about 468, right? And when you look at this from a higher time frame, we'll pull up the daily. It's like, well, hey, we've gotten the full fill of the range to the downside. If we flip that value area low to support, maybe we can get the full fill of the range to the upside. Full fill, full fill. Here's your deviation for your cheap asset. Back in, full fill. Unless Adam wants to go to zero, right? But this is what we looked at yesterday, and not too shabby. We're now breaking above that doorway to higher prices. Very nice to see. I would say this key level at about 418 is the biggest level to remain above. If you're able to stay inside that value area low, you could be looking up towards the point of control, flip the point of control, go up to the value area high. There's obviously going to be intermediary resistance on the way, but we will cross that bridge when we get there, right? I would say like if we're going to look at you have no weeklies above you. You already broke above this weekly, right? So right here you have a tapped weekly. So I would say your biggest key level of support here, if you could hold that weekly, that tapped weekly, and this value area low, this is the big key level to stay on top of, right? I'll get rid of this golden pocket because we already bounced there. Come on down to a lower time frame. I mean, definitely the key zone, right? I would say between about 414 and 420. 420 blaze it. That's what I would look for, right? Doesn't guarantee. Doesn't mean when you come down here just long, right? You have to know what confirmations to look for. But I would say just generally, this is the biggest key level. If you break down below that 786, this is a hyper-local 786. Maybe you just play around the value area low a little bit. But as of right now, if you get a correction, this is the biggest level to look at. You want to stay above this to remain inside this area of balance. If you want the doorway to the POC and value area high open, you must stay above this level. There you go. Bada boom. There is Adam. Or Cosmos, as some of you guys like to call it. Let's see. Yo, shout out to Dutchy. Said, Frankie mixed things up again. We said short stream, not early stream. Shout out to Dutchy. Is it not 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? Shout out to Dutchy. Let's see. Yo, shout out to Gen Z. Said, wow, so early. WT. What the? Shout out to Gen Z, bro. God, me and Mrs. Candles run around and talk about that all the time. I don't know. I try to keep it G-rated. Not that that's a bad word, but I know I've met people in real life at like conferences and stuff, and they say their little kids watch. So I don't want to say that, but me and Mrs. Candles run around saying that all the time. Let's see. Do we get more music at 5:45? Yes, at 5:45 we will start the intro music. Shout out to Hugos. All right, let's jump into our next altcoin, which is going to be Sui, AVAX, and Ondo. I'm going to start off with Ondo here real quick. All right, so Ondo, very simply put, pull up the daily. So here we are, right? Your target here, again, long-term range. Fulfill the profile, deviation, choppiness, right? You get back in, you go to the POC, back down, back to the POC, little deviation, back in, POC, flip the POC high. Deviate above, back in, can't get out, back to the POC, lose the POC, back to the low. Front run the value area high here because, again, nothing is going to be perfect in trading. As accurate as the volume profiles can be, sometimes you just front run those levels. More often than not, you will have, you might say to yourself, like, what are you rejecting here? Well, let's see, right? You might have rejected a golden pocket retracement, maybe from, I'm just guessing, this might not be right, from this lower high to the low. What did you reject, right? And again, you're going to be looking at things like money flow, etc., right? Let's look at a higher time frame here. Money flow is in the red, right? So you could be looking for lower highs and lower lows, right? So your price never rejects for no reason, right? And this is where like the complexity of understanding where to look for these lower time frame kind of intermediary levels comes in. So it's not like it just failed, right? But you were in an environment where a lower high was likely for a lower low. And what would your context be there, right? You would say, well, hey, if you're going to put in a lower high for a lower low, this is probably the area to do it at. And if you break the low, do we have any key levels below this low? Well, yeah, you have the value area low, right? And then that's your key level of support. Obviously, we deviate below the profile again. You get back in. Next target is going to be that POC. And here we are, sitting literally like to the dollar at this point of control. 786 sits at about 85 cents. I would say this is probably going to be the level to remain above. It's a little bit of a zone. You might get turbulence here, but once you're able to flip that 786 POC, that will open up the door for the bigger move to the upside. And when we look at money flow, now we have 2-day money flow coming into the green. And when you have an approach from the low and an attack on the POC, if you flip that POC to support and your 2-day money flows crossing over into the green, well, the 2-day money flow crossovers are typically pretty bullish for price action, right? Indicating the trend will continue up. So if you stay above that point of control, you start to get that 2-day money flow crossover. I'm not saying that it has to go up in a Lambo candle, but the overall trend continuation would be expected to be to the upside, right? And then hopefully we can get some kind of a big breakout, and we'll cover those higher levels at another time. But there you go, right? Key support, I would still say, for the most part, depending, you'd have to move this fib. But I would say like the biggest key level of support is going to be the value area low Fibonacci retracement from the low to the high. Again, if we push up, you have to move this fib up. But as of right now, it sits between about 70 and 66 cents. That's what I would look at. Let's see. Shout out to Curtis. We will take a look at Cardano as well. Tia to $100. Maybe we'll take a look at Tia as well. I actually took a look at Tia a little bit earlier today. Does Gen Z still go to the movie theaters? Shout out to Jets. That is one thing that I'm a little bit upset about losing over the progression of technology. I used to love going to the movies, man. They will probably go extinct at some time. It'll become like an event. Like, oh, we're going to go to the movies even though we can just watch the movie in our brain. We're just going to go for fun. I like the movies, but they probably will go extinct at some point. Have you guys been to a mall lately? Malls are... the last mall I was at, I was getting, like, depressed. I'm like, dang, nobody comes to the mall anymore. It's like on a Saturday, too, at, like, 3 p.m. There's no one in the mall. Half the stores are closed. Man, I don't want to age myself here, but it really does. I'm like, back in my day, we used to really go to the store. We used to go to the physical store and shop. Now y'all just click on those screens you got. But anyway, let's see. Long-term Cardano goals for this cycle. Should I make a video about that? Should I make a pre-record? I'm going to write that down. Tony D, add that to the list. ADA update. I'll give you a little bit of sauce today. I'll go a little bit macro, but maybe I'll do like an overall Cardano update, like long-term bull market targets, etc. If, of course, I never want it to sound like we're guaranteeing that alt season is here, right? Things are choppy, but again, based off my long-term thesis, I think it's possible, so maybe we'll cover it. Yeah, shout out to IN says, going out is like walking into the wild. People are crazy. Yeah, shout out to IN. It's a crazy world out there. I love going out and people watching. Me and Mrs. Candles are just like, yo, me and Mrs. Candles were sitting drinking coffee one day, and we saw this woman pull up to a Tesla charger, and we were just, it was the pinnacle of people watching. She was like, I'm sure she's a nice lady, but she just looked like a hot mess as she whipped into the parking lot. And I was like, look at this chick. This woman's got no idea what's going on. She's like an airhead. And she gets out of the car with like 3 things in her hand. She's like dropping stuff. She goes to walk into into Starbucks, and she has her car door wide open. And I was like, oh, look at that. We called it. She goes back to close her car door, goes back to Starbucks, comes back out because she forgot to plug in the car. And then she goes into Starbucks, and when she comes back out to get her car, she goes to the wrong Tesla. And she unplugged the wrong Tesla. And me and Mrs. Candles are just watching this play out in real time. And we are dying. It's it's literally free entertainment going out in public, especially nowadays. I feel like after 2020, things are just crazy out there. But yeah, watch Hondo. 2-day money flow crossover into the green could be a very, very nice sign. Very nice. Like, you kind of have the nice rounded bottom there as well. Bearish case, I mean, I can't really unsee this. If you do wind up cracking the low again, potential 2-day bullish divergence. Again, you'd have to see what happens when that 2-day VWAP comes down. But I can't really unsee this. If you did put another low in, something like this could wind up forming. But again, until we break that value area low, we don't really have to think about that, right? But as I just see that momentum wave, that's all I see. But anyway, let's continue on here. Let's take a look at yo, shout out to Al Jr. said we got that we got the July Prime delivery week. Yeah, shout out to Al Jr. It is crazy. Sometimes I order stuff on Amazon and get it same day, which is mind-blowing. It's like you order something, it comes 2 hours later. Insane. We're living in the future, Mafia. We're living in the future. But let's go ahead and continue on. We took a look at Ondo, AVAX, and Sui are next. I will jump into Cardano probably after we take a look at Sui. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. That's not our Sui chart. There we are. Okay, so... and here we are, right? To be honest, like none of these levels have really changed, right? But we are seeing a little bit of development. Let me come on down to a lower time frame. Okay, so I will just explain this a little bit. You have your low, your high, Fibonacci retracement, but you might be saying to yourself, this is the wrong fib. It indeed is. But at this time of the price action, this would have to be the fib that you look at. Once you put in that new high, you have to update that Fibonacci retracement into the new high, which was right here. Right, so your new zone would be sitting right there. You push into that golden pocket 786 for a higher low. Looking to crack that high up here, right? You get the reject. You break out of your range. You retest the value area low. You get a little rejection. You're hoping at that point the value area high is the biggest level you want to remain on top of. You get the support. You tap it again. You get the support. And now it looks like we might be able to break structure to the upside here. But we are pushing into strong resistance. You have your golden pocket retracement from this lower high to the low. You have your value area low, and you have this anchored VWAP, which, yeah, I would say this is definitely a big level to get on top of, right? And last time we looked at Sui, it's like, hey, if we're able to hold this, well, it wasn't this exact fib, but very similar. If and when we hold that fib and we break out here, this is your next big area to attack. If you can get above the golden pocket value area low, flip that anchored VWAP to support, you might be able to change this from the continued downtrend to the continued uptrend, right? 786 sits up here at about 330, 329. This is the gold 786 of this fib pull from the high to the low. So technically, like the real level that you want to break is that 786 sitting at about 328. Yeah, that would be like very, very, very key level here, right? So I'll just go ahead and mark this as key. Come on. So yeah, 786 would be absolutely key to break, but before you get up there, right, this is that big level, right? You have a lot of confluence here. All you have here is the 786, which is obviously a key level to continue up, but up here you have a lot of confluence. Golden pocket value area low, anchored VWAP. Once you get above there, I think it's very high probability you see the 786, and at that point, as you test that 786, even if you get the rejection, right, as long as you could stay inside the profile, you might be able to get that continuation up towards some of these larger targets. This golden pocket sitting above is pulled from the high here all the way to the low. And at the end of the day, I don't want to confuse everybody, right? Like once you get above that 786, I'd probably be looking up towards that point of control, right? Because you're already within your profile, and the laws of the volume profile state, stay above the low, doorway to the POC is open, flip the POC, next likely place for price to go is that value area high. And hopefully seeing this stuff play out on the lower time frames, on Bitcoin, on Ethereum, right? It starts to give you a little bit of confidence. Now, obviously, you're not going to expect it to fill as fast as something as like a 5-minute volume profile, right? This is obviously going to take some time. Even on Ethereum, right? If we see that fulfill the volume profile up to about 3560, that's going to take some time, right? Obviously, it's a big move. The higher the time frame, the longer it takes to make that move, right? But if we see full alt season, good lord, that could actually wind up happening fast. So you're approaching key resistance, break above this, watch that 786 at about 329 or say 328, 329, flip that. You can start looking up to some higher prices. Shout out to Rana. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. I used to know a kid that I went to school with named Rana. Says, what type of moves can we expect in full alt season? I would say stuff like this, right? I'll actually just draw this out on the chart real quick. Very likely, during real, true alt season, you're probably going to expect moves like this, right? Like real alt season, it starts to look a lot more like just absolute insanity, right? I'm not saying you have to fill this range like that, but I'm just saying like when things really start ripping up into all-time high, if we do get that true, beautiful alt season that everybody talks about, these are the kind of like mega moves you can expect, like just gigantic rips to the upside. So yeah, again, not expecting that to happen exactly, right? You're going to have a lot of chop in here probably, but like even when you go to, like, I mean, even not full alt seasons, right? Like if I pull up Ethereum real quick, we'll pull up the 2021. Just get rid of all this. Right, when you look at this, it's like, you do have chops, right? You go from the low to the POC, you get a correction, right? Pull up Market Cipher B on a higher time frame. Right, so like when you're looking at the higher time frames, like this is not true alt season, right? But like when the alts start pumping, right, like things can get really exciting. And this is not true alt season. True alt season can get like super, super crazy. But you could just see here, right? Like you do get the turbulence, but they are explosive moves to the upside. Again, this isn't alt season, but you can expect some pretty aggressive moves. We'll just say that. If you've never experienced alt season, hopefully we get it this cycle, which I know a lot of people don't think we'll get it. But if we do get it, all of those dreams that you've had of people telling you stories back in my day, my altcoins were 20xing. It is very exciting. You will know when it is happening, right? It's like one of those magical moments. You just wake up in the morning and you look at your phone and you're just like, oh my God, this feels illegal. I just 10x my money overnight. This is crazy. That's what alt season feels like. Shout out to Ian, said, how are they going to put money into all those coins? Yeah, shout out to Ian. Here's the thing, right? I've said this before in the past. I think that when you have a obviously the altcoin market is pretty diluted, right? Tia going ballistic. Oh my God. Whew, you scared me. I thought we were actually going ballistic. I actually did check my altcoin spot bags. I'm down on Tia. But yeah, we'll take a look at Tia in just a minute. But yeah, like obviously the altcoins are pretty diluted at this point. I think, as time goes on, you're going to have to get a little bit more picky about which ones you pick and choose. You're going to have to hop the narratives, etc. there was a time where it was just like anything you owned went up, right? Those days may be coming to an end, right? But if you're holding the right altcoins, you can see, I think those gains will happen. It just might be a little bit more of a select few altcoins rather than just like, rising tides lifts all ships, right? For the most part. But I think the dilution of how many altcoins we have now are obviously it will take an effect. So shout out to Ion, 100% valid. Shout out to Razor Crow. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much, bro. He says, can you take a look at Aptos? I can try to take a look at Aptos. I will write it down over here. If we have time, I'll take a look at Aptos. I will try my best. Shout out to Razor. I appreciate you. Tia gone ballistic. So we'll take a look at Tia. Maybe I'll take a look at Tia right now. We'll take a look at Cardano. Rana said I'm talking about in terms of percentages. It depends, right? I could give you actual technical targets, right? So, like, let's say XRP hits my target, right? Like, we'll just say for argument's sake, not that it has to, but we'll just say, like, let's say XRP from here hits my highest target that I have on the chart right now at about 1480, right? Again, I'm not necessarily saying this is definitely going to happen, right? If we look bearish at $8, I'm probably looking to take some profit. But, this would be 520% on XRP. Solana, I actually don't have any macro targets marked on the Solana chart. Ethereum, right? Obviously, the higher the market cap is going to change percentages. But, really what I'd be looking at here for Ethereum is from the high to the bear market low, right? And then I'll just pull up those extension levels. $7,000 for Ethereum, that would give you a 171% rip to the upside. I'm not saying that ETH has to go to 15K, but if you went to 15K, it'd be like 464. Obviously, the lower cap altcoins are going to have much higher percentage returns. That's just how market cap works. But yeah, like just to give you some ideas there for Ethereum, XRP. I don't really have any targets on Solana. I mean, if I did the same thing for, say, something like Ondo, I would probably be more inclined to look at this fib extension from the current high all the way to the current low. Right? This, and again, if we break out above $6, right, we would just pull new targets and find new targets to the upside. But again, there's no guarantee you have to come up to that highest target. But like, let's say if you go to the first zone, right, you get 272%, shoot up to $6, 618%. So these are just the way that I find my targets, right? If it looks bearish here, and I think the top is in, I react off the price action, right? If I think it looks good and we're going to continue up, I would expect the higher targets. So there you go. That can be, and then you'll have like low cap altcoins doing like crazy stuff, right? But typically, if you think about if you Google the money flow of crypto, a lot of people think this model's broken. I think there's a lot more narrative hopping that goes on nowadays, but obviously Bitcoin rides, flows into ETH rides, flows into the mid caps, the low caps, and then like towards the end of alt season is where like that money trickles down all the way into the absolute scumbag, dumpster diving, garbage altcoins. And then those are typically the ones that are super high risk, right? But those are the ones that are going to do like the insane gains, right? Like the crazy, like the meme coins and stuff. A little bit of like a different sector there, but hopefully that helps you out. Shout out to Crypto Billy in the chat. Welcome in, bro. He said Ondo at $6 or ADA at $6. Which one first? Oh God! Shout out to Crypto Billy. I have no idea. I don't know how I would be able to. I don't know how I would be able to. I don't know how I would be able to time that. I would say chances are they'd probably be rising pretty much at the similar times, right? So maybe around the same time. I would say. But shout out to Crypto Billy. I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would predict that. Yeah, I guess maybe the lower market cap goes faster. I don't know. Shout out to Crypto Billy. You stumped me, Billy. You stumped me. Let's see. Okay, so speaking of Cardano, let's take a quick look at ADA. All right, so let's take a look. We actually haven't taken a look at ADA in a little while. And what do you know? There was no reason to, because we had our target up here between the golden pocket 786, and that's where we're sitting right now. But overall, let's take a look here at a lower time frame. Just to walk you through this, I mean, I wish I could just look at every altcoin every day so we can like have a clear view of what we were looking at. But obviously, you get to fulfill your volume profile down to the value area low. You hold it. You get the push back into your profile. Is this all locked? The heck is going on here? Let me just unlock all this stuff. So you have your golden pocket 786 pulled from the low to the high. You come down, you tap the daily MPOC, got a little bounce, but you did want to go for you did end up going for the golden pocket. You put in the higher low, you crack structure to the upside, you continue to the upside, and then just in general, you're looking to go from the value area low, start your journey, right? And you could see how confusing the journey can be. Dump, pump, dump. I wouldn't call these dumps or pumps, but you do wind up continuing up, targeting the point of control of the range. At that point, you're looking to eventually break up above that point of control, right? In this golden pocket POC confluence, you also had a weekly and a daily MPOC up here giving you resistance. You got the pullback. At that point, once you break above the golden pocket POC, where's that next target going to be? It's going to be here at that 786, which is where we're sitting right now, guys. 62 cents. And I would say at the end of the day, based off a simple volume profile perspective, if I take all this off the chart, right, we'll just look at the POC. Whoops. Yeah, we'll just look at the POC. I'll take the daily MPOC off. Right? If you're just looking at the point of control of the range, just double check that. Okay. Right? Like get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. Right? Just from a volume profile perspective, low, fill the range, flip the POC back to the high, big breakout, back into the range, can't break back out, or you tried to break back out, get back stuck in, back to the POC, lose the POC, back to the low. Come to the low, POC, value area highs next, right? So like if this is not going to go to zero or lose the POC again, as long as you stay above this point of control, I'd be looking for that next major target at the value area high at 66 cents. And if we pull all this stuff back up, we would just understand, well, hey, you know, if we're going to go for a much bigger drop to the downside, this would be the big level of resistance to watch, right? Golden pocket 786. But in terms of the profile, I would say the probability of the range filling in full is a bit higher, just because that's typically what you see on the volume profiles. If you get the lower high to come in here, well, maybe you get another drop to the downside. But right now, I would say this looks pretty good. Watch this key level here at 786. This is another kind of doorway to higher prices. Crack that 786. Look for the push into the value area high at 66 cents. And if you get a pullback from here, you just really want to kind of stay on top of that point of control, right? This is the strongest magnet within the profile. Could cause some turbulence. But once you stay on top of there, get above the 786, right? Again, turbulence is likely. It's probably going to be some kind of a messy, just like back here. You know you have the golden pocket here, which could pull you back. You know you have the daily MPOC and the weekly, which could pull you back. You get it. But again, volume profile prevails. Low, wonkiness, POC hit, right? You can get the rejection, some wonkiness, but if you get back above the POC or hold it in general, value area high is eventually going to be the expected target. That sits at 66 cents. And then that's the top for the bull market. Send it into the bear. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm kidding. Don't come at me. I'm kidding. But if we take a look higher time frame, right? Let's pull up a weekly time frame. I would pull my extension from the high to the low here. I mean, yeah, we'll assume you break all-time highs. Between 378 and 488 would be your first macro target to the upside. Right? And then you get above that, you can start pushing into about $6.76 to $7, $10 at the last fib level. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say that's guaranteed, right? But I would definitely be paying attention to the golden pocket 786. Once you flip that 786, that's your doorway for new all-time highs. And at first, I would look at between 378 and 488. Flip above that, I'd be looking at that next zone between 676 and 776. Again, even this isn't guaranteed, right? It really depends on what it looks like when you get up there. But those are just some like basic targets that I would look at, right? Just based off the fib, right? I'm not looking at like spider lines or anything like that. No confluence, just simple fib extension levels. So there you go. That's what I would look at on Cardano. And you can just see how well the volume profiles play out, right? Insane. And then we also will have this volume profile from up here that we can look at as you start to get the bigger moves up, right? You can start to look at this volume profile. You can see the POC of this range is what we rejected back then. Even back here on that last rip in 2024, right? We were looking at this on Cardano saying to ourselves, well, hey, if we come up to that value area low, it's obviously resistance until proven otherwise. But if you can get accepted in here, we wound up getting the rejection at the golden pocket. The point of control. But if you were able to hold support on that value area low, you could have continued through that profile, right? But obviously, all the altcoins had much different plans. But anyway, let's continue on here. Will Asia dump the market? Shout out to Thai Guy. Maybe, potentially. We'll have to see what happens. Maybe we should do an Asian stream, which would basically be when my stream ends pretty much is when I would have to go live. But yeah. Let's see. Mainly, shout out to Rana, said mainly sticking to top narratives. Oh, he said, pardon me. But is it real? Shout out to Rana, bro. Thank you for the super chat. It says, is it realistic to expect 5x portfolio? I guess that's what you're asking. You do not have to pardon yourself. I appreciate you. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, it really depends on what you're exposed to. But yeah, I don't think that's super unrealistic. Let's see. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to Poppy Poop. It says $8 is his target for Cardano. Let's pull that extension back up. $8. I mean, yeah, like it's right up in that fib level. But here's the thing, right? When it comes to like technical targets, right? Like this is where I think a lot of people get chopped up, especially like when you have everything starting to run and everybody's putting price targets, which I do as well when we have an environment for it. But it's never like hold until we get to $8. So I do just want to give you a little bit of caution there, right? Like last cycle, infamously, everybody was looking for $100,000 on Bitcoin. And I know a lot of new people in crypto will like latch onto that and just be like, well, this guy, and rightfully so, right? Like this guy's got to know more than I do, right? Like, so he's saying 100K, so I'm just going to listen to him. But this is why I like to teach the charts, because it gives you a reason to look for stuff, right? And if someone says, hey, this coin is going to $11, and then you get to $8 and you're seeing super bearish signals and it looks like the top is coming in, you don't have to rely on that just arbitrary price target, right? You actually have things to look for. So could it go to $8? I'll tell you have a technical target at about 776. This does not mean that when you pull this up on your chart, you say, okay, I'm going to buy, and then it's going to go to, say, $10 to the end of the fib. This is not how the Fibonacci extensions work, right? You could say once you get up here, that is a key level, right? But you're not going to say, if I buy here, it has to go to these levels. These levels don't mean like the level is there, so it has to go there, right? And that's why we look at multiple levels, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying this is the case, but if you came up and started rejecting this 786 golden pocket and the bear market comes in, maybe that would be a case where Cardano doesn't put a new all-time high in. But based, in my opinion, right, I would say probably low probability of that happening, right? You probably will put in new all-time highs. So we'll see what happens. But those would definitely be, that $8 target's not too far off of this Fibonacci extension level. But just understand there's no guarantee that you're going to get up there. Some people present it like that. So yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Depends on what will happen at the Fed meeting on the 30th. July rate cuts, probably not. Yeah, if not, hopefully September. But yeah. Let's go on to our next altcoin, but that's pretty much what I look for the extension levels. And with that being said, right, let's assume if you look at this, right, let's say, well, actually, let me go ahead and keep the extension on, right? Let's say whatever altcoin you're looking at, let's say you get to your last level, right? If the price action looks really good up here, right, then you could say to yourself, you're going to have all kinds of structure in here, right? You're going to have all kinds of like, oh my God, right? And at that point, right, this is where it's like, hey, if you're sitting up here, you can then pull new extension levels off that new price action and find upper targets, right? So if you do ever come into a final target like that on your extension levels, it doesn't mean it has to top out there either, right? It's going to depend on what the price action looks like. It's impossible to know if the top is going to come up, is going to come in at this target until you get up there and you can read the price action, right? What does the chart look like? Does it look like garbage? Does it look like it's just getting started? And then at that point, you could pull new extension targets to find upper targets. So there you go. So boom, that's what I would look at. Yeah, shout out to Al Jr. said it's hard for some people to understand the difference between an obligation and a probability. Yes, shout out to Al Jr. I would agree with that. All right, let's continue on. We took a look at Cardano. Let's take a look at AVAX. All right. Let's zoom in here, see. When was the last time we looked at AVAX? Okay, so we're still holding on top of this 786. Let me see. Is that weekly candle above that? Yeah, you played around with that 786. Did we look at this yesterday? This is the zone you want to hold, right? Golden pocket, 786. I would say, yeah, I mean, if you lose that 786, it's probably going to be likely that you lose this low here at 1463 and start moving down towards that value area low. If you can hold this. You do have a opportunity to make it up to that value area high. If you break out, you could look for the break of structure to the upside. You have your low, your higher low, and your higher high. But once you lose that 786, this would be the line in the sand. You lose that 786, you're also breaking down below the POC of the range. This would open up the door to the value area low. That would be more bearish in my opinion. But as of right now, you are holding that 786. So right now, as long as you can hold this fib zone, next target to the upside would be the value area high at 2155. Once you break out of there, hold it as support. You can look to push into your bigger fib targets, which is sitting golden pocket, value area low, beautiful confluence there between about 2716 up to about 2894. Let me pull an anchored VWAP from the high. Yeah, and you got your anchored VWAP in there as well. I'd probably extend this zone, right? Like this is your biggest level of resistance to get above. Once you get back out here into your value area low, above the anchored VWAP, above this 786, POC and value area high is going to be the next expected targets for a high probability rotation through that profile. The only thing here is you're still stuck within your lower value, right? So you really got to get above that value area high. So key level of resistance above 2166 at the value area high. And then again, if that 786 is going to be the higher low, you would look for a break of structure to the upside into the golden pocket, value area low, anchored VWAP. I would expect this to be somewhat turbulent. Even if you shoot up to the 786, you might get a little chop there as this is a confluent level of resistance. But once you're able to hold support inside that profile, get above the anchored VWAP, I'd be looking up towards the POC value area high, bringing you up to about 49.17. Again, not bull market target, right? That would just be local. So there you go. And again, you break that 786, doorway is technically open to the value area low. So there you go. And then I won't even cover this up here. You know, I don't want to, we start to get a little pump. We just start looking at all-time high targets. We do it for fun, but, we're obviously far away. So we'll cover these levels at a different day. So there you go. There is Avalanche. Let's take a look at Aptos. Do we have a chart on Aptos is the question. I don't know if we do. Whoops. Definitely not the OKX chart. Yeah, I don't think we have an Aptos chart, so I'll just pull up the... Yeah, we'll just do it on the Coinbase chart. Only other thing I can think of is maybe we looked at the KuCoin chart. No. All right, so I'll just look at the Coinbase chart. So yeah, this is, I'll do higher time frame on this, right? So I would just be looking at this as a volume profile. Yeah, I mean, you could probably just incorporate all of this. POC, value area high. So yeah, I would have really liked this as a weekly bull div. Let me check the RSI real quick. Maybe you had it on the RSI. Yeah, it's like an exaggerated bull div. But yeah, I mean, you have gotten your fulfill the range, right? You pretty much get fulfill the range, fulfill the range, fulfill the range, fulfill the range, fulfill the range. Generally, if you could hold above this value area low for the most part, doesn't mean you can't play around with it. But, once you get up here, another big thing I'd look at is 2-day money flow. That 2-day money flow crosses into the green. I think that's your next best chance, right? Or even to see it cruise up towards that zero line. That's your next best chance to see price continue through this profile, right? So macro volume profile, I would say value area low at 427. That is going to be your key support. POC at 908. Value area high at 1078. Did you get a daily bull div down here? Little bit, like barely. But yeah, I would say this is, and then I'll bring up local levels as well. But I would say you're above your value area low. That's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, this would be your key. I could pull a local fib here as well. So I would say at this point, right, you're getting the, you got the tap of the golden pocket. So at this point, right, if we were looking at this before we got the pullback, right, if we were looking at this on the push up before we got the pullback, what would we be looking at? We'd be looking at the fib pulled from the low to the high with your 786 and value area low confluence, golden pocket value area low confluence. 786 sits at about 408. And you would say to yourself, well, hey, if we get a correction, where do you want to hold for a higher low and a potential break of structure to the upside? You would look to hold the golden pocket or the 786, right? So even if you dipped into that 786, you would look for that break of structure to the upside. So you are holding that golden pocket. You're above the value area low. You have your 2-day money flow, daily money flow coming out. Interesting. 2-day money flow still trying to cruise to the upside. 2-day green dot looking to print. So I would say hold this zone. Look to continue up. And if you dip back down in here, you could potentially still hold that 786. So that would be, this zone does sit between 436 and 408. And then for a long-term plan, right, obviously going to be a lot of noise. Let's assume you are going to go to the high of the range, right? You could have a lot of noise in here, right? But you will eventually look for that point of control, flip the point of control, look to go to the value area high. This is nice, right? Because before you get to all-time highs, these are super high probability targets, right? But once you get into new all-time highs, the fib extensions are a little bit harder to say they're super high probability. These levels will act as magnets. The fib extension levels are just placed, they're like pit stops on the way up. And then you have to look at those pit stops, analyze price, and figure out the probability of getting a rejection or a continuation, right? But that would be POC at 912, value area high at 975. And if I were to look at some local stuff here, I wish this was a little bit of a cleaner range. But if you wanted some local levels as well, I would say watch this volume profile right up here. All right, and I don't want to put too much stuff on the chart here, but I would say locally, this point of control at 539 could be your doorway to 616. And then once you break out of 616, you could get accepted inside this profile, right? And these are just local, this is to anticipate what the noise might start to look like, right? So if my plan is to be in down here for an eventual fulfill of the profile, I would expect turbulence at this value area low / POC. Once I flip the POC, I'll say, okay, I'm probably good to make it up to this value area high. And then once I break out here, I could say, well, hey, I know this is a key level of support, right? If I break back down below it, I could come back down into this lower value area. If I stay above it, I can look to that value area high, right? But you might get a little resistance at this value area low / value area high for a higher low and then a higher high. Right, so you want to know, this is if you know, we cover a lot of this more intricate stuff and key levels in the Discord, but those are some local levels you can look at, right? So if we continue up, I would say locally, before you even start talking about that range, I would be watching this local profile right here, right? Value area low sitting at 503, that point of control is at 540, and then you have your value area high at 618. So locally, you know, this would be a very, very key level to get above. These are kind of close to each other, so I would look at this as a zone. So I would mark this out, right? And then say, hey, if you can get, this might be resistance, but once you get above that POC, you're probably pretty good for a move up to the value area high. Not financial advice. There you go. That's what I would look at. And then 2-day money flow, again, big macro signal to look at. But, I mean, hey, you're trying to stay on top of this value area low. Stay above here. You could be looking for a better move to the upside. All right, let's see. If Sui hits 20, I will be up 580K. Seems unrealistic. Shout out to Rana. Sui to 20. Let's see. I'll just look at it from a Fibonacci extension standpoint. And another thing you want to pay attention to here as well, guys, is market cap, right? Go to thecoinperspective.com. I do this all the time on the live stream. This tool will allow you to do some research on the market cap of what you are looking at to understand if it is a high probability of price getting to that level, right? This is like one of the big arguments against XRP to go to $10,000, right? XRP, right, if we pull this up, coinperspective.com, right? This is, I'm not affiliated with these people. This is just like a really good tool to look at, right? So if you look at, say, XRP, if you want your target price, right? Let's say XRP is going to go to $1,000, right? No, let's say 10,000, right? That's like the big one everyone talks about. That would be a 4,148 X, right? The market cap would have to be $590 trillion, right? Is that realistic? I will say this. XRP could go to $10,000 if the market cap is $590 trillion. Is that likely? Not really. Right? So this is another thing you can look at if you hear people talking about targets. Put it into coin perspective, right? Type in the target price and then try to see what the market cap would be. Does that make sense? Is it like 70 times the market cap of Bitcoin? It's probably not going to go that high, right? So that's another way you could kind of like manage your expectations with your alt predictions, right? Very important. I don't want the Mafia to get stuck on like influencer price targets because although some of them get hit, usually the very, very high ones don't get hit, right? Just think Bitcoin 100K last cycle, right? We didn't get anywhere near it. So yeah. And what was on the what helped you understand that wasn't going to happen? The only thing that would have helped you there was the chart, right? So there you go. But let's see. SUI, let's pull up the extension levels. I mean, you have a $14.93 SUI at the final extension level. But again, right, you might have your final extension level at some crazy unrealistic market cap. So you have to do that research, right, to understand, right? And the easiest way to do that is to put it into the coin perspective and then, like, look at market caps of, like, maybe coins that are similar, maybe, like, the big brothers of that narrative, right? And then be like, well, if this thing flips the biggest coin within that narrative, is it realistic to see, like, is it around that same market cap? And you just want to try to see, right? Like, when you see a number like $590 trillion for a market cap of XRP, that is so, like, I would say impossible, but so unrealistic. But technically, if XRP's market cap was $590 trillion, then I guess it would be at $10,000, right? But is the probability there? Probably not. So there you go. Hopefully that helps somebody out there. Go to the coin perspective. It's super easy to use. And yeah, like next time your friend tells you this coin's going to $100, you can literally show them the math and be like, that's more money than is in the world, right? How is that going to happen? So yeah. But again, hopefully XRP goes to 10K. If XRP goes to 10K, I'll be like a multi-quadrillionaire. But yeah. All right, let's see. Shout out to Nick says realistic prediction for ADA. I actually just looked at Cardano and the targets above. Realistic targets. Shout out to Crypto Billy, said happy birthday, Jesse. Let's go. Wait, is it actually Jesse's birthday? I processed that as happy birthday, Rob, which we all know he has a birthday every single day. Jesse, is it actually your birthday? Shout out to Jesse. Happy birthday if it actually is. Shout out to Mark Dutch. Every time I read a chat from you, Mark, I'm always just like, what am I walking into? Shout out to Mihai says, love you, man, for this site share. Yeah, shout out to Mihai. Yeah, it's like one of the easiest ways, right? And honestly, it's that's why anytime you see someone, even me, right? If I say like price prediction for ADA, right? I would be very open in that video saying like, this is where I would expect. This is like what I think. But I would never just say like, could this go to $14 and beyond? Sure, right? You would have to do the market cap calculation, but the you could actually just use that site to kind of like test, right? Like a lot of people thought that a lot of coins were going a lot higher than they did last cycle, right? And if you actually do the math on a lot of those altcoins, like those market caps were completely unrealistic. I think you had a lot of people out there like calling for price targets and they didn't even really understand how market cap worked, right? But just a thing to keep you safe from those just like crazy unrealistic positions, because what happens when you have someone calling for a crazy price saying like, this is super bullish, it's the next new this is this is like the next new technology for the world, and it's like maybe one day it'll get there, but to call for it in the cycle, like you have to really keep things realistic, right? Like otherwise what happens, right? You wait for unrealistic price targets, and then what happens? You wind up round tripping your entire bag. I just can't do that to the Mafia. I want you guys to make money. And if that comes at the cost of saying that not everything is going to have a $3 trillion market cap, then it is what it is, right? I would rather you guys make some money. So there you go, right? And it's probably going to be painful. Even if you sell the top, guys. Anytime I've ever sold a top or a bottom, not that I sold the top or the bottom of SUI, but like anytime I sell the tippy top, I feel like an idiot, right? I'm like, oh my God, I'm selling this thing before it's going to go on a huge explosion, right? And it's not until later on in time where I'm like, thank God I sold. Same thing with buying the bottom, right? When I bought Bitcoin between $20,000 and $21,000, this did not feel good, right? Like the sentiment down here was absolute garbage. Oh my God, regulation's gonna ruin crypto. And then it's like you start to get that stuff seeping into your head. It's like, is like Bitcoin dead? Is crypto dead? Right? Everyone thinks that in every cycle. But like when you dollar cost average in, that's why dollar cost averaging really helps, right? Because you're just buying, averaging your entry on the way down. But it doesn't feel good, right? It pretty much feels like, oh my God, like this is super scary. This is super, I feel like I'm buying before a dump, right? You don't know necessarily that this is next, right? When you look at this at the current time, right? When you look at this at the current time, right, you're just thinking like, oh my God, this thing is melting down. Like, how low is this going to go? It feels like it's going to go down forever. So buying down here would have felt like garbage, right? But in the end, you pretty much bought the bottom, right? Or if you bought here, you would have bought basically the bottom. But it doesn't feel like that, right? You feel like an idiot. You're like, why am I buying this thing? It's going to zero. So it's kind of that, it's hard. It's the psychology of the markets. It's always going to be the most difficult thing. So there you go. Let's see. Point of this game is to get the biggest amount of the middle and bounce. Yeah, shout out to Steve. I mean, getting caught up trying to sell the tippy top, guys, is a very dangerous game. Very dangerous game. Even in the previous bull market, right? Would you have rather rode up and sold here, right? And then watch it go back up. And then when you come back down, you're thinking like, oh my God, I'm a genius. Sometimes it can be super brutal, right? Because then you're like, oh my God, thank God I sold up here. I missed a little bit of the pump, right? But if you're in from a lower price, let's say you're up 533%, like the difference between 533% and 800% is kind of a lot. But it's just like, would you rather sell here and then miss out on more gains and then eventually like actually keep your money? Or would you rather just hold and be like, oh my God, it's going higher, right? And then you feel like a genius down here because or you feel like an idiot because you didn't sell up here. You think you held the top, right? And then you come back up, and then you're, oh my God, 100K, 100K, 100K. I would much rather buy low and sell up here or up here and make money than wait for $100,000, never get it, and then ride it all the way back down. But you almost have to go through a full cycle to actually understand that and act on it, right? So I always say for me on Bitcoin, if we ride up to 100 and say 30K, 120K, whatever it is, right? I am in from down here, right? So I don't really care, right? If I'm going to take profit, say at 130, 140K, whatever it is, right? Sure, could it go to 150K? Yes, but I've already enjoyed these massive gains, right? So if I sell at 130K and it goes up to 150K, I'm not missing out on much more money, right? And I would rather miss out on that potential small gain, right? I would rather miss out on that potentially small gain than hold for 250K and then ride it all the way back down, right? Not that it would go down to 20K, but you got to pay yourself when you're in the green or you'll never make money, right? This is what like a lot of people who make money in crypto get like screenshot rich and then they wind up making no money, right? And then a lot of them, hopefully in the next cycle, learn that lesson. I would much rather sell early than sell late, right? All right, let's see. Yeah, shout out to Crypto Independent said that's the best time to buy. Buy the blood. I don't buy a coin if it's not 10% down, 100%. Shout out to Perry said Market Cipher B is the key signal to know when the cycle is over. Thanks to Market Cipher. Yeah, that weekly money flow crossover into the red has just about every single time called the bear market, right? This one, you actually got a pretty big, I mean, you actually kind of ranged. And then when you broke that range to get the last dump on into the bear market, you get that money flow crossover into the red, which happened like right here. Big bear market. Doesn't look that big because it's so far away. Same thing here, right? You start to bleed out. And then right before the big drop into the bear, money flow crossover into the red on the weekly. Same thing. We did this literally live on the channel. Right? When everyone's looking for 100K, saying 30K is the bottom, we see this money flow crossing over into the red. And it wasn't just that. It was many other things saying, and I got roasted for this. Guys, it looks like this might be the start of the bear market. Weekly blood diamond, obviously had a bear flag here. Weekly money flow crossover into the red, which is the huge signal. What happens? Bear market, right? It's happened every single time. Could it change? Potentially. But, I'm going to stick with it until, I'm going to play that until it stops working. So, first cycle is always brutal. First cycle, I lost 400K just by watching it go up and then back down. Shout out to Mr. Ethereum. That is like the experience of like 99% of people not losing 400K, but holding it to the top, watching it go all the way back down. I think it's like a rite of passage to get into crypto and do that, right? Because when you get into crypto, you see everybody that's made money in crypto, and you're thinking, this is my time. Finally, it's going back up. And then they see these like crazy grandiose targets without an understanding of what's going on, and they will hold it. Oh my God. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many people were waiting here for 100K, right? Oh my God, it's going. Everyone wants to see it. Everyone wants to see it, right? No one gets it. They ride it back down, right? But again, we had many, many, many signals on this chart. Weekly bearish divergence, money flow coming into the red. And yeah, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to know this is the exact top. But once you start seeing that weekly money flow bleed out, it's like, even if, right? And then nobody wants that. If you're looking for 100K, it's so hard to sell down here. But would you have rather sold here? Right? When you see that weekly money flow crossover into the red, you know it's a likely bear market. I would rather miss selling the top and at least pull out in profit up here if you were in from lower, right? Assuming you were in profit, right? Rather than just hoping and praying for 100K when the charts are screaming bear market and just riding it all the way down to break even, right? Or, you know, back into the red or whatever it is, right? Or much less profit, depending on where you bought in at. So there you go. That's just some 2 cents on the cycles. It is absolutely brutal. Trust me. I don't always buy the bottom and sell the top. Or haven't always. Where can I get the money flow chart? Shout out to Zion, or Zane. I don't know why I said Zion. I think we have a Zion in here. Zane, this is Market Cipher B. This is it's a paid indicator. You can save 20% with our discount code, or just use the link in the description down below. You'll save some money. But yeah, it is paid. But this is literally, I've been using this ever since before I had a YouTube channel, before I knew Crypto Face. I'm not just like a paid shill. I've been using this forever. Again, before I had a YouTube channel, before I had any reason to promote it, I was shilling it to my friends. I'm like, you got to get Market Cipher. This thing's crazy. But yeah, NFTs were the worst. Yeah, shout out to Gen Z. I mean, that's another thing a lot of people just thought was never going to go down. This is the future. We're going to be in the metaverse, and you're going to use your NFT like maybe one day, right? But and I'm not a big NFT guy, right? Like, I wouldn't even know how to do analysis on, you know, you can't just like look at a price chart really. But the even stuff like that, right? Like you have to understand that like if this cycle ends, if that's when that cycle ended, right, in 2021, it was very unlikely that NFTs were just going to keep mooning, right? Maybe if the metaverse was a real thing and it was actually being put into use, then maybe it would work, right? But it's the same thing with the altcoins. It's like you can, you know, obviously they're going to go up, but if the cycle is ending, right, it doesn't matter how bullish the narrative of your altcoin is. You have to remember, crypto is very speculative as well. A lot of the coins that pump the hardest don't even come back in the next cycle. A lot of this is just hype and speculation, right? That's what drives the market. So it, you know, I think a lot of the argument that people have with these grandiose, massive high price targets, right? And even if it's just you hoping for that high price target, it could be bullish fundamentally. That does not mean that it's going to not go down in the next bear market, right? And maybe those things do come to fruition for the good projects that do actually implement the tech and it does get adopted. Like maybe one day you can make it up to those targets. But in a massive bear market, in a bad economic environment, right? Like the risk on assets are going to go down, right? It doesn't make the technology bad, but that doesn't always, you know, if the technology was the only thing, right, that drove price action, it would just be like, oh, okay, like Bitcoin's just going to go up forever and never come back down. That's just not how markets work, right? So yeah, there you go. Let's see. Shout out to Rob the Crypto Snob. Say, get some rest, Frankie. Jeez. Shout out to Rob the Crypto Snob. Yesterday, guys, if you watched the live stream yesterday, I kind of wish I canceled the live stream yesterday because I hate coming up here when I'm just not feeling that great. But I was absolutely shocked yesterday. Absolutely shocked. Someone was like, Frankie looks tired. And I was just like, yeah, guys, this. And then price action was boring too. It's just like this. I was dead last night. Now it's like the total opposite. Total opposite. We get a little movement. And we get a little Aztec and Cactus Moss Water in us. And we're cooking, baby. Shout out to Rob the Crypto Snob. Let's go. Time check, Frankie. Shout out to Crypto Billy. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. But yeah, did we cover Ondo, AVAX, Sui? Yeah, we even took a look at Aptos. I will do one more. I will do one more altcoin. What should we do? What should we do? Frankie's Sleepy Candles. Shout out to Baze Bailey. Yeah, Mrs. Candles. And it's funny, too, because, like, usually I'll get off stream, and if Mrs. Candles wants to go out to eat or something, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I got off the stream yesterday. Usually if I'm excited about going out, like, hey, let's go grab some food or whatever, she's always like, I'm tired. And yesterday she was like, let's go get food. And I was like, I'm shot. 4-hour stream incoming. Shout out to Tony D. Yeah, let's go. SEI. Shout out to Double R. You're moving too fast for me to double rank, and it's gone. But yeah, we'll take a look at SEI. Oh, and you know what I'll take a look at? Shout out to Curtis Reese. No, we did Sui, right? No, we did Sui. Not going to lie, guys. I look at so much stuff, it all starts to look the same. They're just like candles in my brain. The longer the stream goes on, the more everything starts to blend together. But no, yeah, if you scrub back, we did SUI. Biggest resistance level on SUI right now, biggest key local level, $3.07 to $3.14. Get above that anchored VWAP at $3.14. I think you go to the 786 POC, 786 at $3.28. Flip that 786. Could be a good sign. And again, 2-day money flow is a big thing to be looking at. 2-day money flow crossing over into the green on SUI as well. Doesn't mean you can't pull back, but again, that overall trend may be able to continue up. All right, let's see. Tia, yeah, we could try to take a look at Tia. 500x long on stream. Shout out to Dremmer. I don't think any of the exchanges I use offer 500x. I think 150 is the highest I could get. That would be funny, though. All right, so let's see. I will take a look at SEI. Yo, shout out to Dutch. He said, sounds like a lovely marriage. Blink twice, and we'll come to the rescue. Nah, it's it's fine. It's fine, guys. It's fine. It's good. I'm just sweating and shaking. Anyway, let's continue on. SEI. All right, let's take a look. All right, so we actually looked at this yesterday, I believe, and there was 2 Fibonacci retracements or retracements that we were looking at, right? Number 1 was the local golden pocket value area high, which is what we're bouncing off of right now. This is zone number 1. Pull up that anchored VWAP real quick. Yeah, so you have your anchored VWAP golden pocket. This would be really nice to hold, right? And this fib has already gotten the lower high. Didn't put in the lower low. But yeah, these levels of support remain the same. Golden pocket value area high sitting right here between 25 and 24 cents. If you lose that golden pocket value area high, I will simply be looking down towards the full golden pocket retracement of this entire move down, or of this entire move up from the low to the high. Lose this golden pocket, I'd be looking down towards this bigger golden pocket, which is also not confluent. Oh yeah, this is what we were looking at yesterday with like you have a high volume node here. So this golden pocket sits between about 22 and about 22 cents. 0.226 to 0.2208. And then once you lose that, POC 786 is another really big level to look at, right? Sitting between 19 and 20 cents. Pull this. So you have the anchored VWAP of the local low here, which is a nice confluence on that golden pocket. So, you know, if you are looking for a move up, you don't want to break down below this golden pocket, get stuck in the value area high, because that would call for a bigger drop through the profile. I would favor the POC 786 just because of the confluence, but golden pocket is an honorable mention. Let me pull this anchored VWAP from the low down here. Yeah, I would say these are your 2 next biggest supports, right? Like right here and then this golden pocket. Lose that golden pocket again. I would prefer the POC 786, but it doesn't mean you can't bounce there. But overall, I would say like this is really the level. Like for the bullish move, if you really want a big move, this is probably what you want to hold, right? Because you broke out of the value area, you stuck it on the tap of the value area high once, put in a lower high. If you're going to, you know, very important to hold this level, right? Because if you don't, you do have the high, the low, the lower high, and you could expect a lower low to be broken, which would bring you back into this profile towards that golden pocket. And then we'll gauge the reaction here if we do come down there. But just understand you have the POC 786. I really wouldn't want to see the value area low, to be honest. If we want to start having things move, like you want to start holding these fib levels. If you get the move to the upside, I would probably just kind of look at this as its own little range, right? Just pull this current. Yeah, I would say, let me see if I can pull up a daily level here real quick. No weekly. I mean, you do have a weekly up here at the golden pocket. Yeah, I mean, I would just look to come into this zone, right? Because like this is the level to break above. 786 sitting at about 31 cents. Like that would be what you want to break above to come visit this upper profile, which is where the real fun could start. So key resistance, 31 cents. Key support, 25 to 24 cents. And I would just really say you don't want to lose this, right? So I'm actually going to pull both of these fibs. I don't want it to get too confusing here, but Yeah, I would watch this zone. If you lose this, coming down here. And then if you lose that, probably coming down here. If you move up, this is your biggest level of resistance. If you break this, I'm looking up towards the value area low at 36 cents. So there you go. Taking a look at market side. I mean, you have the daily green dot looking to come in. Money flow is coming to the downside, which makes me worried about a continued downtrend. But, yeah, key support, green dot incoming. Maybe you can get a little bit more of a bounce here. And then maybe, I mean, if I'm just being super, front runny and speculative, if you put the higher high in, if it's a fast higher high, maybe you can get some kind of a bearish divergence. That's probably a little bit too speculative. But, yeah, that's what I would look for. Really want to hold this level. So there's SEI. All right, let's do one more last little check-in on Bitcoin. Shout out to J. Cole in the chat. What is going on, man? Welcome in. Welcome in. Shout out to Troll Gamer. Said recap on Bitcoin. That's crazy. I front ran you on that. But yeah, just to kind of recap here, guys, before we drop out of here. Let me go ahead and hide this stuff. Right. So overall, right, we have this target on the chart yesterday during the live stream. This is kind of our last line of resistance. How much more time we have on this day? So you got about an hour and 24 minutes left on this daily. I would say listen, I am short from the high. I am long from down here, right? But let me pull up the key levels. Current volume profile. So, yeah, key levels of support to look for, right? Yeah, daily money flow coming out. But, again, I'm not putting as much weight on the indicators right now. I'm really paying more attention to the key levels. We got to push into our next target. I took the short. I'm in the long. If we pull back here, I will be aware. Right? One thing to look for is the daily candle closure below this daily MPOC. Actually, more specifically, what I really wouldn't want to lose is this wick right here. Sitting at, 110, 500, 567. If you get a daily SFP of this daily MPOC or this wick right here, that could be looked at as a little bit more bearish. And then when we look at the VWAPs on Market Cypher B, you do have the 4-hour VWAP looking to potentially come down here. You can just see how choppy this has been. Into the red, into the green, into the red, into the green. But we've been above the zero line for quite some time. So I think if you continue down, I think you're going to be looking for that 4-hour red dot. You could also pair that with your 15-minute money flow crossover into the red. But overall, like the biggest key level of support I would be looking at is going to be the value area high at 109,930, right? If we wind up coming back down, I would like to see higher lows and higher highs. But if you get accepted into this value area high, we might just get accepted back into the range, in which case all the key levels we've been covering on the live streams are all still valid. And then if we pull our fib here, I'll pull it from this higher low. Yeah, I mean, this is really the zone you want to hold on Bitcoin, in my opinion. All right, I wouldn't mind if you did get the pullback, tap that golden pocket, even touch that 786, but you really want to get out of there again. Once you lose that 786, you might just get accepted back into the range. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Very nice to see the pump. Let's, is the shorts, yeah, I think my entry on the short's still pretty good. Yeah, still just sitting there at the same profit it was at the beginning of the stream. Long, I'm going to go ahead and take some profit on these. Probably a little bit of profit. Long's up about 1,900. 400 on the short. Not too shabby. Nice to get that move to the upside, but we will see, guys. We will see what happens. And again, daily green dot printing, like I would be a little bit more concerned, right, if we didn't have this fresh green dot on the daily. Are we going to pull a VWAP flop now? We have the red dot, green dot, right? Fake out to the downside, move back up. Red dot, green dot, fake out, or, just higher low, higher high. Are we going to, I would say if you're going to get a big correction, you would probably need a 4-hour red dot. You would really need to start seeing some higher time frame red dots, like even the 6-hour VWAP. 6-hour VWAP flying to the upside, 8-hour VWAP flying to the upside. I would just say watch this level here. This sits between 109.18 and 109.229. Start losing that, we're just going to be looking back down towards this volume profile. But that's all the time I got for tonight's live stream, guys. What time is it? 6:40. Dang, we almost went through the entire length of the 5:45 p.m. live stream. Lambo soon, boys. Shout out to Sergeant Squid. Let's go, baby. Lambo soon. Next week is National Crypto Week. Think that will play a role. Shout out to Dremmer. I don't know. Every time there's something like that, it always plays way less of a role than people would think. Like everyone always says, like Bitcoin conference pump. it's never been a significant thing. It's never been a significant factor. But yo, shout out to K Diggity, said you're not allowed to be done streaming before 7. Shout out to K Diggity. Don't tell Phoebe. But guys, with all that being said, I think that's all the time I got for tonight's live stream. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I'm going to go manage these trades a little bit. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time, 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're new here, guys, smash the like button on your way out. If you're new or old, if you're new, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so these next moves do not shock you. We're here live every single weekday. And have a great night. Go touch some grass. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong!
Look what's next for me, Joe. I'm gonna get that second bell. Where the f is it? They should have had them 2 bells ready. Spit shine for me.
Yeah. Head up in the clouds, dog, they saying I look stressed. I've been feeling down, pray to God that I'm up next. Remember when she blew me off, that's why I can't text. Now she call me petty, but I swear I can't forget. This ain't a test. Now they saying that I ball like Jerry West. Coming back for what is mine, can't take no less. I said go and take a shot, so I need your best. And stop the threats, don't know what is in me. I don't got time, I'm not giving the energy. Too many people around me, I'm finicky. I do not mess with you, dog, you're not kidding me. You don't got way too close. I've been up at the top now, so they all wait for the landslide. I seen too many people that switched up, whose man's high. Through it all, I stay the same, I swear to God, I can't lie. Been down so damn low that I came up from my life. They talk way too much on the internet, it's not real life. I swear my fam waiting, I can't lose, and I'm still right. Still right, I swear that I'm working them up till like midnight. It's real life, I got a time and I'm coming to get mine. In time, I cannot lose and I'm coming right inside. I'm in my, yeah.
I was going to pop up here and scare you, but Curtis Reese said Mrs. Candles deflationary. That's all I'll say. That's all the time I got, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time. You know the rest. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong!
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand, like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, at the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, at the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Yeah.
blast out, put the pedal to the floor.